Fire up the grill and crack open a non-Bud Light beer. It's time for the Geeky
That's absolutely
Geezers.
right. Yep.
Thank you, Rosefire. Actually, I was going to say welcome to episode 19 of the Decline and Fall of Warner Brothers, but no, you're here. I'm sorry.
Or welcome. We're broadcasting from the downfall of Western civilization.
Well, I'm sorry, and I think that our entertainment problem we're having is part of that. Let's be honest here.
Well, whether you think it's upstream or downstream, culture and culture are directly correlated.
They're connected. Welcome, D. Penzek. You were first. Good evening, Geeky Geezers. Big Al, always welcome. Have a great show, my friends. Thank you. Matt Anui, welcome.
Grill Random Thoughts. Netter and I were hanging out with him. We did a rewatch of Poltergeist 3, so we could once again point out where Netter was in it. Yeah.
Deleted scenes. That's a better movie than I gave it credit for. I mean, I think nothing beats the original, but you know,
I was going on throughout the movie about the special effects, all the practical effects. They had a lower budget than the first movie, and I said, I got to be honest, some of the I guess you'd call it trick photography because it was all practical in camera, you know, and I couldn't point out how all the tricks were done, but there was a lot of them where they had a mirror or a fake mirror and people on the other side and stuff, all done in camera. And that's way better and way more practical than some of the. I was saying that even the shots where you had like the break in the wall and the lights and the smoke coming through. I said that's all done right there on camera. That's a very easy thing to do, and I think it looks better than the optical effects, the animation, you know, in post from the first movie. I'm like, there you go, you know. But Joshua V.
Yeah. I mean, I think they did well for it there. He cosplayed as Captain Planet. Okay, that's interesting. Remember Captain Planet?
I do. I didn't really watch any of it. It wasn't my shtick.
Mirrors are great cinematographer tools. Okay.
Yeah.
Remember the Toxic Crusaders? That was sort of also had an environmental theme, but it was funnier, I guess, because it was.
Was that related to the Toxic Avenger?
Yes,
because I know the Toxic
it was like
Avenger
a kid's version of the Toxic Avenger.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe some of the things they made cartoons out of in the '80s. You're like, wait, the Toxic Avenger, RoboCop, Rambo, really?
The Killer Tomatoes had a children's cartoon.
Killer Tomatoes, that's right.
What's fascinating about the Killer Tomatoes cartoon is as close as you'll get to a children's version of a zombie apocalypse story.
True. Good point.
Because instead of zombies, it's the tomatoes, and like civilizations come to an end because of the Killer Tomatoes and all that.
Yeah.
Just got an email from Tom of Island of the Stars. Met its first fundraising goal.
Yes,
I hope
it did.
The film gets made. Congratulations.
The one thing I didn't, he was on actually, I helped him, I put him together with PJ from Orville Nation. And so when PJ went live today, he had Tom on. And because I was busy and doing so many things, I didn't get a chance to hear the answer to the question. Even though the campaign is over on Indiegogo, are they still accepting contributions?
They are.
Netter says that they are.
Lucinda said they are.
Lucinda, the producer, said that they are. So, and I know I was just on the Island in the Stars page a little while ago, and you can contribute. The button is still active, so you can help them get to their next stretch goal. That would not be a bad thing.
Let's see. Yeah, definitely. Keep getting there. Get them to the next stretch goal.
Samuel Proctor, I had not seen the King Arthur TV show from the Daily Wire. It was in production, but that's pretty awesome. That's good. I love the parallel economy concept.
I think it's like called it's based on a book series, The Pendragon Cycle. Is that a thing?
Sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah, it's based on a book series. I hadn't heard of it, but it looked interesting. So yeah, I like King Arthur stuff. I used to have a game for the Super Nintendo called Knights of the Round, and you could pick it was a beat 'em up, and you could play as King Arthur, Lancelot, or Percival.
Nice.
When you played the arcade version, go ahead.
I was going to say I still feel like the best, and I admit I don't know many, so this is from the small sampling that I'm aware of, but I still feel Excalibur is the best screen representation of the Arthurian legend. They even went so far as to try to blend together otherwise disparate parts of the legend. The Lady in the Lake and the Sword in the Stone doesn't seem like they'd be. It seems like they'd be mutually exclusive, but it found a way to make it work, and I like that.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because in that game I was mentioning, it had a very Excalibur look to it. Obviously, the Japanese game makers that made it had seen Excalibur, because the Merlin in that looked like the Merlin from Excalibur, with kind of the thing over his head, The interesting thing about the game was, on the arcade version, if you both picked the same character, like both of you want to be King Arthur, the Lady of the Lake would select which player would get to play. Because you couldn't both play as King Arthur.
Right? That makes sense.
One of the other knights, but it was neat. Let's see here. Mikey Sue's 4. Netter, I finally have you all subbed. Okay, well, welcome to our stream. I don't think I've had
thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah. There's a couple faces I'm seeing in here that hung out with us over on Gorilla Random Thoughts for the rewatch. Then I'm guessing they bounced over to deleted scenes. I'm sorry, man. I had to get myself something to eat, so I didn't get a chance to make it over to your stream. And then they popped over here. So awesome. Well, CK is here saying hi to everyone. Welcome.
Deleted scenes he said he was going to do a more fun stream tonight, more pleasant. I thought, well, that's
I hope you guys had fun,
because the ranting is going to be on my stream tonight.
Tonight we're going to have a bit of a rant, and we're going to have a way more than usual. We'll have to keep it as brief as possible.
I'm going to be
in memoriams tonight.
We're going to have to. In fact, one of them is going to tie to our first good old days. So let's go ahead.
And tell me about the good old days. What's good in the good old days?
Come and knock at our door.
I'll give it a shot. Okay. And this is keep in mind, nobody bought me a drink this week, so this one's a freebie. Come and knock on our door. We've been waiting for you. Where the kisses are hers and his, Three's company too. Come and dance on our floor. Take a step that is new. We're a lovable space that needs your face. Three's company too. You'll see that life is a ball again. Laughter is calling for you. Down at our rendezvous. Three's company too. There you go.
One of the great classic 1970s situational comedies. John Ritter, let's be honest, one of our great physical comedians.
Absolutely.
Yes.
There was well into the run of Three's Company. And I'm jumping ahead like this because there was this great retrospective hosted by Lucille Ball. And she's talking about the show, and she's I don't want to say she's breaking the fourth wall. It's more in the documentary format where she's talking to the camera, talking about Three's Company. And at some point towards the end, John Ritter comes in as John Ritter, and he's like, oh, Lucille Ball. And he's like getting all, and she's like, oh, for crying out loud, John, just kiss me already. And he hugs her and kisses her, and he's all excited. And she featured and she talked about that element of him. I get the impression she had a great deal of input into the writing of what she was saying, because she was talking about it as an analysis of physical comedy and just television comedy in general. Lucille Ball knows or knew a thing or two about, right?
Oh, sure.
And she was saying that John Ritter was just one of the great physical comedians of our day. In a way that wasn't being done anymore, and I don't feel has really been done since. There's a whole segment, and she does it in the very vaudevillian, sped up, silent style of an episode where he's trying to get into a hammock. And it's an old shtick. It was done in the silent era many, many times, and he did it just so well. The jumps into it, flips over. It was just, I can't even describe it, but I'll bet any of you that ever watched Three's Company know exactly what I'm talking about. He was brilliant. And man, how many years now we're missing him, I love John.
Yeah, it was
I would watch him in anything, and I would laugh. Well, Three's Company, I would laugh so hard that I would cry. And it came on, as I recall, it was part of the Tuesday run, right? Because it was Happy Days,
I
Laverne
think
and
so.
Shirley, and then Three's Company. And I liked Happy Days. I liked Laverne and Shirley, but nothing made me laugh like Three's Company. You know?
So, what's the premise of this show?
Well,
Now, this is my understanding. Correct me if
well,
I'm wrong.
before you even get to the premise, though, what inspired it to be on our televisions? It was one of those, and in the 70s, there was more than you realize. It was a British comedy that they exported to the U.S. and, refilmed here with new. Yeah, it was a show called Man About the House. And just like if you've ever seen All in the Family, I'm drawing a blank on what it was called in Britain. But but as you watch Three's Company, if you know that it was originally, and they use some of the same exact scripts, but when they keep referring to going down to the pub, right? The Regal Beagle, and they refer to it as the pub. That's just them not changing a line from the British script, right? So yeah, that's what it is. But yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that was a little bit of trivia you might not have known.
No, I didn't. But I think my impression of it, maybe this wasn't necessarily the case, but you have this man named Jack, and he's living with two women that, of course, he's not in a relationship with either of them. And of course, this might have been seen even in the 70s as something that was sort of taboo or
If you
scandalous.
rewatch the pilot episode and
Yeah.
see the whole layout of the premise, it's a very weak premise just to get into where they want it to be. But if you pay too much attention to the details, you're like, how on earth does this happen? They had a party the night before, and Jack kind of crashed the party, got drunk, and fell asleep in the tub. And then he's found by these two girls, and yeah, that's how it starts. So they don't even know this guy to start out with.
Now, was the impression I got, because of course they had their landlords, which were the Ropers, correct, in the beginning of it, right?
Yes.
And I had the impression, maybe I'm wrong, was the excuse that maybe Jack was gay? Was that sort of what they were kind of alluding to?
Well,
That way it wouldn't
they
be an
said it
issue.
outright. It was,
Yeah.
keep in mind, this was a different era where you could, be relaxed about making fun of everything, right?
Right. Mhm.
So the Ropers come, and of course you got Stanley Roper, who is very just kind of a jerky-ish type conservative.
Yeah.
And
Traditional
his,
American man, yeah.
and his wife Helen, who is more free-spirited, right?
Right.
And so she would have been, in fact, she was kind of in on the shtick. She knew what was going on here, and she wanted Jack to be able to stay. So backing up, he wakes up, he doesn't have any place to go. He's staying at the Y, and he can't even afford to stay at the Y. And Chrissy, the blonde, very different character in the pilot than she ends up becoming later on. They changed her character, but it was like she kind of liked Jack and wanted him to stay. And Janet, the brunette, who's a little more level-headed, no, we can't do that, we can't. And he's like, I promise I'll be a good boy, I won't, just like adults. It's like, okay, I know we just met you, but, if we can trust you, we need help to pay for the rent. We need a third person. We'll let you stay as long as you're good. You stay in your room, and you don't, no hanky-panky. And then she turns to Chrissy and says, no hanky-panky. She's like, okay, no hanky-panky, right? So they suggest this option to the Ropers, and Stanley's like, absolutely not. I can't have a guy staying here. And I can't remember which one it was who came up with, well, it's okay because he's gay, so there won't be any hanky-panky. And he's like, oh, you mean he's like, and then he does the Tinkerbell hands. That was a recurring joke that he did all the time. And they're like, yeah, exactly. Oh, well, if that's the case, Norman Fell was genius. He had this great way of, he'd make a zinger type joke, and then he'd break the fourth wall and look at you like, did you catch that? It was just, he reminded me a lot of my grandfather, I got to be honest with you, his mannerisms and whatnot. And I would just laugh so hard. He was brilliant. And the interplay between him and Audra Lindley, who played Helen. It was because she was so sweet and so romantic, and he's like, "Oh, we're beyond all that. Stop, leave me alone. Quit fussing on me and stuff." And it was, their recurring joke. They were so popular, they ended up getting a spinoff. The spinoff didn't quite work because the dynamic was kind of broken. But
that was a mistake. They should have kept them on the show. It really was. I know they got Don Knotts later on.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. And who was funny too. I'm not taking anything away from Don Knotts, but
no, exactly. But and they kept the shtick going in the later seasons. When they left and they brought in Don Knotts to play Ralph Furley, he was also he was told by Stanley off camera that they thought they were going to be able to drop the charade of him being gay. Nope, because Ralph said, as long as you're gay, that's okay. But he started to suspect. There were times they'd play with, he'd start to think, oh, I think it's all a joke. And then they'd kind of have to get him back on board that, no, you're misunderstanding. He really is gay, just.
One of the big things about Three's Company, as I recall, it was all about misunderstanding, right?
Yes.
Like overhearing conversations and you're taking the wrong context. There's a joke, here's Batman the animated series or something else out of context. You know what I mean?
Right.
Something out. They do that. Maybe not Batman, but they do with other series. This is
usually here was the
whole
formula.
Show. Yeah.
The formula was usually like this: two people are having a conversation, and a third person is either on the other end of a phone or in the other room, doesn't see what they're talking about, only hears half the conversation, and completely misconstrues what's going on. And they keep it going to the very end when the big reveal and everyone has a good laugh, but, things get tense for a while. The one that stands out for me, and unfortunately it's from one of the spinoffs, I'm not thinking of one from Three's Company itself, but John Ritter got a spinoff called, what was the spinoff called? It was like Three's a Crowd or something like that?
Yeah, I think that's what it was called.
And he opens up a restaurant, and
he was a culinary chef.
He had sent somebody, he needed specific pots and pans because, he was doing this gourmet cooking and whatnot. And he says to this person, "Did you get the pot?" "Yes, I got the pot." "How much was it?" "It was this much." Someone overhears it, thinks that there's a drug deal going down. It's that kind of a thing. And it's,
it was always stuff like that.
And it was always very clever, because then there'd be another line that would apply to what you knew they were really talking about, but you could also see how it could apply to what the other person thought it was about. Very, very, very clever.
They did something like that on Cobra Kai. Remember when he was running into one of his old nemesis from Karate Kid Part 3, and he's overhearing and says,
yes, that's a great example. Yeah.
I'm gonna get rid of that Japanese, and the Italian. Like he's talking about furniture. He's not talking about Ralph Macchio and his,
Yeah. Yeah. It turns out that he hadn't even thought about them for years,
I know, it was funny.
No, that's which is great, because it ends up becoming a fight. And how does it turn out with, and it's just like guys in real life. You get into a fight over a misunderstanding, then suddenly you all feel bad and you end up becoming best friends, even though you just beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
right?
I don't want to spoil too much for Cobra Kai if you guys haven't seen it, but it's worth checking out. At some point we'll do a good old days on Karate Kid, I'm sure. But
I'm surprised we haven't already. But yeah, I love Three's Company. I that was a show that we wanted to go on forever and ever, and I think that there was so much chemistry between John Ritter and Joyce DeWitt.
Yeah,
that they felt. And it was kind of unfortunate, because I felt like, because they had such great chemistry, I felt like the Chrissy Snow character was kind of an add-on. And I think Suzanne Summers felt that way too. That's why she ended up leaving after a certain point. And that role ended up becoming a bit of a revolving door, because the next season she was replaced by
was it Cindy?
Jenna Lee Harrison, yeah.
Oh,
her cousin
nice
Cindy.
Nice looking lady.
Very nice. Another, and they were all blondes. They always had to replace it with, it was because Janet was the brunette. Whoever came in had to be the blonde. So the replacement was her cousin Cindy, who was was goofy in a different way. She was very accident prone, which really then played off of John Ritter's
Yes.
physical humor again, because it would often be he'd go through the door. They had a swinging door between the kitchen and the front room, and whenever he'd go into the kitchen, she'd be coming out and wham, he'd get hit. You know, it was even worse if he was coming out to the living room from the kitchen with his arms full of stuff. She'd be coming in and wham, and everything would go flying. Right, even to the point where he would be like, he'd get to the door and he'd step back and he'd go, "Cindy, yeah. Where are you? I'm in the kitchen. I'm going to come into the kitchen now." "Oh, okay." He'd go, "Okay." He'd start to go and boom, she'd knock. "I was opening the door for you." You know, it was always something.
I that rings a bell. I must have seen that scene. I did not catch it on its original run, unfortunately. This was before my time, but they had it on Nick at Night, and I used to. And I remember when it came to Nick at Night. This is when I finally got Nick at Night, and I was watching it all the time. This is hilarious. That was my thought when I was watching
just
reruns.
Absolutely brilliant. Then when I think Cindy was only in it for a season, then she was replaced by Priscilla Barnes, who played Terry Alden. She played a nurse, so she was a completely different character. They were going now for the more, okay, we're not going to go for the ditzy stupid, we're going to go for the, professional intelligent, but she still fell into that because they all did. That little bit of bumbly silliness because, let's face it, it's a comedy. Right?
Well, it's a comedy, yeah, and it's supposed to be funny. But it's funny. I remember in the 80s, I would go back and watch comedies from other decades because I wasn't a big fan of comedies in the 80s. Now, there were a couple good ones, like Cheers was a good one. But
which had a lot of spin-offs too that were really
always
good.
Had the lessons and some of these like a lot of the family sitcoms. There's always a lesson, and I was like, this is getting old. This is kind of preachy, kind of like what we have now, except what we have now was even worse. But
but in a way, it was done. It was usually done well.
It was done with good intentions. I'll say that.
Yeah, there was one episode that was very funny. But it had a very poignant, literally bring a tear to your eye type ending. It was a story, again, the misunderstanding, one side doesn't know what the other side's doing. Janet and Jack are both trying to, find somebody to date. And so this was back when the idea of, in quotes, computer dating was first starting. Again, pre-internet, you would actually go to a place and fill out a physical, what are they called?
The computer would find your ideal match. Okay.
Exactly, based on the prompts that you put into it and stuff. The problem was they both use fake names. So when they got matched up with somebody, they ended up getting matched up with each other.
Ha!
And through the whole thing, they're not realizing it. And then when they find out, it's really, really embarrassing. And I don't remember how it all turns out, but the ending just solidified itself in my mind so much because, and actually, to be honest with you, I might actually be confusing two episodes, but I remember they were at Janet was a dance instructor and they were at her dance studio and Jack was there and he's trying to basically tell her, look, it was a mistake. It's okay. We're still friends. Let bygones be bygones. She thinks he's coming to razz her about the whole situation and pick on her. So every time he tries to say something, she's in tears. She goes, "I'm so embarrassed. I know, you're going to say this and you're going to do this and blah, 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 blah. But, I really," and she's just being vulnerable and she's sharing. And he finally stops her and he goes, "No, I wasn't going to say any of those things. What I wanted to say was," and he turns and he hits play on the radio, "Can I have this dance?" And they just danced together. I thought that was so sweet. I was a kid when I saw it. I got a tear in my eye. I'm like, that is so sweet.
Nice.
Damn it, that's good writing. They don't tell stories like that anymore. And it's okay to be real and emotional, even when it's a comedy. It doesn't all have to be ha-ha,
Yeah, it can be just people.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's when you love a show, when you love the characters, right?
Yeah. It's like visiting old friends.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you know what? yeah, if you go back and watch this show now with the modern sensitivity and ready to get offended about all kinds of things, yeah, there's a lot of jokes in here that are probably going to offend you. The jokes that Norman Fell and Don Knotts make about Jack and whatnot, kind of very inappropriate. But what's really interesting is if you can put that aside and pay closer attention to what's actually happening there, Jack, who is not gay, but is the butt of all those jokes, you see him get kind of annoyed about it, as if he was gay. And it kind of underscores, almost in that All in the Family kind of way, pointing out the bigot kind of being an ass, you know, and going, this kind of ain't cool. So it's okay to laugh, but also remember, that ain't right. That's fine too.
All in the Family. That'll be another good old day someday.
Yes.
Apparently, John Ritter also voiced the PBS animated series Clifford the Big Red Dog.
He did. That's right. Yeah. I'd forgotten that.
I remember she did. Priscilla Barnes also played Felix Leiter, murdered newlywed in Adela in License to Kill Bond film. Yeah, that was a shame. And that was But good night, Rosefire. Thank you for stopping by.
Oh yeah, take care.
But I did want to mention, someone mentioned rest in peace, John Ritter. We have to unfortunately say a rest in peace to Suzanne Summers.
Suzanne Summers. This one came in so recently, I didn't have a chance to get it into the notes or into the thumbnail. So you want to... But I did send you an article, didn't I?
Yeah. Let me find it real quick. Give me 2 seconds.
This one's not in my notes, so I can't...
Not my notes either. I didn't add it because it was so late. But
yeah.
And you can... Three's Company actress Susan Summer dies at age 76. And I'll just read a little bit about this. Susan Summers, the actress best known for TV comedies including Three's Company and Step by Step. Used to watch Step by Step.
Yeah.
Has died. Her longtime publicist announced Sunday she was 76 years old. Suzanne Summers passed away peacefully at home in the early mornings of October 15th. R. Corey Hay said in a statement she survived an aggressive form of breast cancer for over 23 years. Suzanne was surrounded by her loving husband, Alan, her son, Bruce, and her immediate family. Her family was gathered to celebrate her 77th birthday on October 16th. Instead, they will celebrate her extraordinary life and want to thank her millions of fans and followers who loved her dearly. Oh, sad about that, but oh well. At least she'll be remembered by loved ones, you know.
And she'll be remembered fondly by a whole generation that grew up with her. I hate to say it, I don't mean to sound crass, but by a generation of boys that had posters and
you're thinking
magazines
of the Playboy
and stuff.
issue.
Yeah,
yes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think everyone's dad had that Playboy issue.
She was very, very attractive. Let's just be honest here, right? I do have a type, right? I do.
There are a lot of good-looking women. I thought Joyce DeWitt was very attractive too.
I did too, and she was so sweet. Her character was so sweet, but yeah, she wasn't like bombshell hot, but she was just beautiful.
Like Girl Next Door, you know.
Yeah, exactly. You could I mean, I think this might be taking it a bit far, but you could almost make the Marianne Ginger kind of comparison there.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And we had another death. I'm going to go ahead and go with Mark Goddard, actor on
I'm going to drop the link for that one. I got it right here.
This is a series I have to see if it's had a Blu-ray release. This is one I'd like to own. Some of these
I'm sure it must
Allen
do.
TV series. I know, but I'm sure it had a DVD release. I'm sure of that.
Not to mention, I'm sure that soundtracks of Birdman probably has. If he hasn't talked about it, I'm certain he's got a soundtrack for it because this is a John Williams soundtrack.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Mark
Goddard, who played Major Don West, the hot-tempered pilot of the Jupiter, who won the 1960s CBS Adventure Series Lost in Space, has died. He was 87. Goddard died Tuesday in Hingham, Massachusetts. His third wife, Evelyn Pezelik, told The Hollywood Reporter the cause of death was a pulmonary fibrosis. So yeah, he was on. Goddard worked as a regular on the 4-star television series Johnny Ringo and The Detective, where he was approached by his agent about coming on board the new Lost in Space created by producer Irwin Allen.
Yeah,
I remember him on the show. My dad always was very puzzled because you have like the eldest daughter of the family who's this lovely blonde girl, and you have this all-American like tough major guy, and he's like, why aren't these two getting together? Did they
Well,
ever
but
on
you
the
got the
show?
impression there was a romance there. There
Okay,
definitely
because
was.
it just made too much sense.
And it did. I
There
don't
you
know
go.
if they were just good actors, but I did feel that
Yeah.
Mark and the actress's name was Marta Kristen. They seemed to have such great chemistry, and it was very clear that she had the hots for him, but he was the first officer to her father, so
This is true. He was a
tried
professional.
he tried to keep it professional, but you almost got the feeling that her parents were like, there may come a day where it might not be, inappropriate for you two to have a,
Yeah,
relationship.
exactly.
Like they almost approved. But
There was a funny scene in the movie Bridge of Spies where I think Tom Hanks, he plays a lawyer in that, and he had an assistant, and then he called his assistant and said, "No, we have to," because he basically got put on the case of having to actually defend a communist spy, a Soviet spy, right?
right.
And that's what the movie's about in the beginning of it, at least. And so he has to say, assistant, sorry, we're gonna have to work through this all night. And then his daughter is at the table. She's also, I thought you had a date tonight. No, it was canceled. And of course, he knows she's dating his assistant. You know what I mean? But they were trying to keep it secret. It was kind
Right.
of funny. And then his
Exactly.
assistant goes over. Just this Paul, it was funny. It's a funny little scene in the movie. But anyway, here we are. Yeah, but unfortunately, we lost another actor. Watch Lost in Space. It's a great series. That may be something. I have to say, there's so much great old television. If you get sick of the new stuff,
And like I said,
You
if you have never seen Lost in Space and you've never heard the two different sound theme songs that it had, the first season and the later seasons had different theme songs.
I remember the ba 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 da
Yeah.
da da. Is that the second theme song or the first one?
They both, one was a little bit more ominous, the other was a little bit more fun, and I don't remember which one came first. Both composed by John Williams. John Williams did the soundtrack on these shows. This was where he started. So before there was Star Wars, there was Lost in Space. The robot was inspired by the Robbie the robot from
well, they called him
Planet.
Robbie the robot on the show, didn't they? I mean,
No.
it was basically
No. On the show, he was just called the robot, and he had like a numeric designation. I am a such and such, blah blah blah. I don't remember what it was, but Robbie the robot did make a guest appearance in one episode.
Because I imagine they were from the same make or model, or they didn't look.
They were very
similar.
Yes.
Yeah. So okay.
Robbie had walking legs, whereas the robot from Lost in Space was on treads. I actually had a 6-inch electronic toy of that robot.
I remember when I was a kid and they said there's no way they're going to make bipedal robots. They're going to be on tracks. And then, of course,
have you seen the one that
we have plenty of things now that can walk on two legs? Yes.
Have you seen the one that Tesla's doing that can take and sort blocks? It now has visual recognition to sort blocks.
Fascinating. I saw the one that Atlas made years back, and that's, of course, at this point, this is probably old hat, but
it is. They've come a long way since then.
And he kept getting on his feet, and I was amazed, and I'm like, whoa.
The Corridor 2 crew did a great parody on that, where they knock it over and it gets up and beats the crap out of everybody.
But you know what? I mean, it's kind of funny, but maybe yes. But no, fascinating series. Irwin Allen also did I think he did a series based on Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, and that's another one I'd like to watch one of these days.
Yeah, I didn't watch that one as much, so I don't know.
It's like another science fiction series, and this one's about ocean stuff, right? But sorry to see him go, but his work will live on in the series.
No doubt, and especially because we have syndication and we have physical media. We'll talk more about that later. But Phyllis Coates?
Yep, let's get into my notes now. Hold on. Let me open this up. Oh, I'm all the way at the bottom, as usual.
And I'm just going ahead and drop the link for you.
Phyllis
Coates, the first Lois Lane on television, dies at 96. People that remember Noel Neill from The Adventures of Superman with George Reeve probably, unless you pay attention and remember the first season, don't realize that it started out with Phyllis Coates in the role. And she was later replaced by Noel Neill, who had previously played Lois Lane with George Reeve in the movies. So, yeah. So technically, Noel Neill played Lois Lane on screen before Phyllis Coates, and then replaced Phyllis Coates later on the small screen.
Like Superman versus the Mole Men.
Exactly, yes.
So Phyllis Coates, the first actress to play Daily Planet reporter Lois Lane on television, only to leave The Adventures of Superman after just one season, has died. She was 96. Coates, who also appeared in Republic picture serials and in such films as I Was a Teenage Frankenstein, died Wednesday of natural causes at the Motion Picture Television Country House and Hospital in Woodland Hills. Her daughter, Laura Press, told The Hollywood Reporter. A native of Wichita Falls, Texas, Coates first portrayed headstrong Lois opposite George Reeves as the Man of Steel in the dark sci-fi Superman and the Mole Men in 1951. The success of that Lippert film, the first full-length theatrical feature starring the comic book hero, led to a quick decision to start production on a syndicated show for television. Coates segued to the series and got into jams as Lois in all 26 episodes of the first season. The Mole Men picture turned into a two-parter titled The Unknown People. Oh, so they turn into an episode. It's like that whole thing with Battlestar Galactica and the Buck Rogers thing in the 70s.
Yeah.
She got paid about $350 each episode and said 4 or 5 were often shot at one time. So she always wore the same hat, suit, and earrings. Well, it's interesting when I think about characters like that. Even in cartoons, they're always wearing the same outfit, right? You know.
Well, here, yeah, and it was for the same reason. Those serialized shows back then did it that way, and it was common enough that people didn't think twice about it. That was just like Superman wore the cape and the S and everything. Well, that was the outfit Lois Lane wore, and Jimmy Olsen wore the outfit he wore. But that works out perfectly because that's exactly how it was in the comics. You know, Lois Lane was with unless the story called for her to be in another outfit, she always had the specific outfit she wore. You know, for that era.
She's receiving an award at a
right, or she's going out on a date with Superman, or whatever the case, or she's getting married. One of the 573 times Lois Lane got married in the golden age. But or Jimmy Olsen always wearing that green checkered suit. You know, that was how comics were. That made it real easy when you were putting them out on lunchboxes and action figures. You know, so the fact that was the case here, it makes sense.
But
and before anyone in the chat asks, no, although Netter and I did get our picture taken with Noel Neill, and we were there for the unveiling of the Lois Lane statue with Noel Neill and whatnot. No, we did not actually get a chance to meet Phyllis Coates. She was there a year that we weren't able to make it.
See.
Yeah.
It says here she's survived by another daughter, Zoe, and granddaughter, Olivia. So, okay. Well, like I said, and then we have one more, Piper Laurie.
Piper Laurie. Yeah, this one.
Twin Peaks
we'll probably talk more about Piper Laurie on Friday. But Piper Laurie, 3-time Oscar nominee, dies at 91.
Yeah, so of course she's had a very long career, I think. But
and you know what? If you don't know who Piper Laurie is, especially outside of Twin Peaks, do a Google image search. When she was younger, she was just so beautiful.
Oh, I'm
glamorous.
Sure.
You know, she has a slight resemblance, in my opinion, to Shirley Jones.
Interesting. Okay. Piper Laurie, the strong-willed Oscar-nominated actor, performed in acclaimed roles despite at one point abandoning acting altogether in search of a more meaningful life. Died early Saturday at her home in Los Angeles. She was 91. Laurie died of old age. Her manager, Marion Rosenberg, told the Associated Press via email, adding that she was a superb talent and a wonderful human being.
Yeah.
Laurie arrived in Hollywood in 1949 as Rosetta Jacobs and was quickly given a contract with Universal International, a new name that she hated, and a string of starring roles along with Ronald Reagan, Rock Hudson, and Tony Curtis, among others. She went on to receive the Academy Award nominations for 3 distinct films: the 1961 pool room drama The Hustler.
Yes, I love that. Oh, that's Paul Newman and what's his name?
Jackie Gleason.
Jackie Gleason, thank you. Which they made a sequel to in the 80s, Paul Newman and Tom Cruise.
The Color
of Money. Yes, definitely. If you get a chance, that's a movie to check out.
The film version of Stephen King's horror classic Carrie.
She played.
Brian
that was she played a very creepy role in that movie.
Role. That's another one where they did the remake, and I'm like,
Yeah,
no.
Anytime you see a remake, unless you hear a bunch of people just going on about,
Yeah.
man, that remake was better than the original, don't even bother with it. Go see the original.
The actress they had playing Carrie, Chloe Moretz, whatever her name is, she's that's not the mousy girl getting picked on. That's the bully. That's not you
Yeah,
get to play Carrie. I'm sorry.
right, exactly.
The romantic drama Children of a Lesser God. Okay,
Yeah,
1976.
I
She,
remember all the Academy hype around that one.
a lot of controversy over that movie, as I
Yeah.
recall. She also appeared in several acclaimed roles on television and the stage, including in David Lynch's Twin Peaks in the 1990s as the villainous Catherine Martell.
Oh, she was. Oh, this very femme fatale type character, but
Yeah.
like aging femme fatale.
Yes.
She played it just really good, and she just had this sexiness about her that you were like, I don't know, I should be getting turned down by grandma here.
Well, she wasn't that old.
What for compared to us when we first saw it?
Of course.
There
are a lot of good-looking women on Twin Peaks, though. But you'll hear more about that on Friday. Check out Troy's stream on Friday. I'll be on with him along with deleted scenes.
Yep.
But Laurie made her debut at 17 in Louisa, playing Reagan's daughter, then appeared opposite Francis the Talking Mule, and Francis Goes to the Races.
Oh, yeah.
What?
I remember that movie. Yes.
Hold on. Hold the phone. What is Francis the Talking Mule?
There was a series of movies with.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Is it like?
I remember my mom. They'd be on like television, like Sunday afternoon or whatever. And Mom, I remember this movie. You're gonna like this movie. And I remember seeing them. Yeah, I haven't seen them since, but yeah.
She made several films with Curtis, who she once dated, including The Prince Who Was a Thief, No Room for the Groom, Son of Ali Baba, and Johnny Dark. Okay, well. Yeah. All right, so yeah, but let me fast forward and we'll be here all night. But
yeah, I know.
She's been on a lot of shows on television. She appeared in such series as Matlock, Murder, She Wrote, and Frasier, and played George Clooney's mother on ER. I remember ER.
Yeah.
That was must-see TV. I think that's what it was even called on NBC.
And don't be mistaken, she also did come back for the very not too long ago the third season Twin Peaks Returns. As did everybody who ever appeared in Twin Peaks that was still alive. They got some role somewhere. David made sure that happened.
Let me see. Chloe Grace Moretz did a pretty good job in the Carrie reboot film. I understand that, but I don't know. I don't see her as the mousy girl getting picked up.
The problem is almost never the actors. It's the writing.
They probably could have dressed her down more in the movie. I think that was the problem. Maybe they dressed her down a bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I'm just talking out of my butt. Anyway, Francis the Talking Mule was one of the inspirations for the Mr. Ed TV series. Really?
Yes.
So it was a knockoff.
Yeah, kind of. It was an inspiration. It was not, because there wasn't enough parallel to even say it was really a ripoff. It was just, hey, that idea of a talking equine, wouldn't that be funny? Let's do that as an ongoing TV series.
Now I'm reminded of the movie Hot to Trot with Bobcat Goldthwait and the voice of John Candy as the host.
Yes! Oh, God, I'd forgotten about that one.
Good. That'll be a Friday rewatch someday. Okay.
It should be. Oh, I love Bobcat Goldthwait.
Anyway, rest in peace, all you fine actors, you Hollywood legends.
Yeah.
And maybe younger actors take note. Do better. I'm sorry I'm being mean, but
no, it's absolutely true. We are losing the talent that we thought were, funny and inspirational and attractive, and in their private lives they had this professionalism about them when they would interview and whatnot. And maybe their managers just did a really good job of coaching them. I don't know, but at least they listened to their managers. Nowadays, the glitz has come off of Tinseltown. It really has.
Yeah. It's right. It's now the glitz is gone. That's sort of where we are. But okay,
bring back the magic. But. This is why I always say the older stuff is better. And as long as you keep it yourself, they can never take it away from you. That's why physical media is important, and that's why this article is also something to talk about. Best Buy is exiting the physical media business for good in 2024. My prediction, and you know what? Somebody get a sound clip of this so we can play it back in a couple years. My prediction is this is the beginning of the end for Best Buy. Pretty soon they're going to close up shop the exact same way Toys R Us did for some of the same reasons.
Remember Circuit City?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I remember going on the Cheap Ass Gamer blogs or somebody with some other blog and reading about the horror stories of the Circuit City Black Friday. They mastered the art in that store of the bait and switch.
Oh God.
Anyway, all right, folks, we've got a little bit of a whopper for you today.
Yeah.
And so as not to bury the lead, let's get right to it. The Digital Bits has learned from industry sources, and we've confirmed it with multiple sources now, that Best Buy plans to exit physical media business for good next year, possibly as soon as the end of Q1 2024. This is not just in store. They're in-store Blu-ray, DVD, and 4K Ultra HD sales, which the retailers gradually been phasing out for a couple of years now in their many store locations nationwide, but online sales as well. So remember, you and I were thinking, well, maybe it'll be physical locations, but you'll still be able to buy them online. No, they're getting rid of them online. This means no more Best Buy exclusive Steelbook titles and no more titles from Best Buy, period. The fact that Best Buy is discontinuing physical media sales in the retail location should come as no surprise. Anyone who has visited a Best Buy store location on a Tuesday recently will be all too aware that the retailer's disc section keeps getting moved around and have gotten smaller and smaller. Our own experience here at the Bits is that some store locations don't even bother to stock new release titles on the sales floor anymore, even their exclusive ones.
Mm-hmm.
More than once in their Southern California locations, I've had to ask for the titles and wait while a store clerk checks the storeroom. That's the thing that sends people online, just so you know.
Not only that, but you're lucky if these, minimum wage, or living wage, minimum wage people actually even care enough to go into the back room and find it for you if it's there. They usually just go into the back room and have their lunch and then come back and say they couldn't find it.
Best Buy had a real problem recently that they were letting go a lot of the senior staff, like staff that had been there a while and knew their way around the store. Those were the first jobs to get cut when you'd think it should be the opposite. So you see,
that's another sign that a company is going to be going out of business.
Yes.
They are getting rid of their experienced staff, and they're hiring more useless POS, low budget people that don't give a crap. People are going to stop going to Best Buy altogether. This is something else that's going to keep. If I can't get stuff from you online, look, I said, and here's the analogy. I said this is just like Toys R Us, right? You go into Toys R Us. You want to buy something. We don't have it. Sorry, we can't find it. Well, can you tell me if another Toys R Us has it? Nope, we don't have connection to them. You mean I could literally go online and check any other store, but you can't do that with your own store? Nope, we have no... And there was no internet store for Toys R Us where they could say, oh yeah, we have it in our internet store. We can have it shipped here or to your house. No, nothing like that. So when they went out of business, no shock there. Well, guess what? Best Buy is doing the same thing here.
Yeah. Let me see, though. But the idea that Best Buy would discontinue online sales, too, comes as a bit of a surprise, though perhaps it shouldn't. We've, in recent months, that said that Paramount has quietly shifted their Blu-ray and 4K exclusive titles that would normally be released at Best Buy to Amazon instead. And it seems like other studios will follow Amazon's lead in the months ahead. And now here's an update. I have to read the update. Variety Media Play News have now confirmed my reporting that Best Buy is phasing out physical media in the new year following the 2023 shopping season. The company will apparently still continue to sell video games. A Best Buy spokesperson provided the statement to Variety to state the obvious: the way we watch movies and TV shows is much different today than it was decades ago. Making this change gives us more space and opportunity to bring customers new and innovative tech for them to explore, discover, and enjoy. So there you have it. Longtime readers of the Digital Bits can be rest assured of two things. First, no, this does not spell the end of physical media. And second, I'll have to do a great more to say on the topic here at the Bits on Monday and all next week. See you back here then. The Digital Bits, if any of you know, They were a website around in the early days of the internet that were the first big DVD aficionado site where you went for DVD news. I remember going there in the late '90s. I would go to Digital Bits to find out what's coming out on DVD. Digital Bits was the main site I would go to, so they've been around for a long time. And it's a shame. Blockbuster Videos. It's funny. DVD spelled the end of Blockbuster Video because they wouldn't play ball. I'll have to talk about that someday. Someone sent me a message.
Oh, you don't need to look at that now.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
I was sending it to MeWe so you could look at it after the.
And we called it. I'm sorry. I thought you would have sent a private chat. Never mind. I'm sorry.
I mean, no, because you might not see the private chat. That's why I sent it. I didn't know you had MeWe still open. That's why
I need to close MeWe. You get rid of it. I heard the beat. They've already started layoffs on their Geek Squads too. Yeah, Best Buy's in bad shape. I've heard someone else talking on their website. They're thinking that Xbox games are being phased out. Physical Xbox games are going to be phased out at Walmart locations next year. I've heard that.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's Microsoft pulling back or if that's Walmart or both. Because Microsoft, they are kind of wanting us to get away from physical media too.
And last week we were talking about. Dang it, Troy. Yeah, thanks. Thank you so much. Yeah, I know. I tried to be clever and smart, and I didn't think it through all the way. But last week we were talking about what was it? See, deleted scenes. You just made me lose my train of thought. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. Never mind. But one article that we didn't get in here was Netflix opening up a bunch of brick and mortar stores, and people are saying, what the hell are they actually going to be doing in these brick and mortar stores? Because it's not going to have anything to do with DVDs or renting or anything. You know what I'm guessing it's going to be? This is going to be them selling off their DVDs from their DVD by mail that just ended last month. I'll bet you that's what it is. Just like how Blockbuster used to sell off the previously viewed films when they wanted to, go from 500 copies to one copy, I bet you that's what Netflix does. And then they're only going to have their store open for about a year and then they close them all up.
Crap. I should have gone on Netflix and rented a copy of Rock and Rule and just said, I lost it. Can I pay for it?
No, I wouldn't have even done that. I would have that's assuming you could even get it. Because what was happening was, I think a lot of people were starting to keep their stuff. And so you'd go, I want this. And it would say long wait. And you're like, well, there is no long wait because you're going out of business next month, so.
I'm curious, Mike, Sue's for is it like Walmart locations only Blu-ray and 4K discs will remain, or is it just the DVD is just being phased out?
And that
Walmart locations, or is it just everywhere? I don't know.
And that reminded me, it was last week we were talking about Target and how they were phasing out based on a source that we know that works at a particular Target. Gave us photographs of the display and whatnot. That same source has been telling me about some of the marketing for Indiana Jones. I'll probably be doing a video about that this week, so watch for that.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the next article. Well, who needs physical media, right?
Right. Exactly. We're going to talk more about the streaming services. So with all the hubbub and hullabaloo about the ridiculously stupid live action remake of Snow White, Off-White, that they're going to be either putting out or scrapping. If they're smart, they'll scrap the effort. But I guess they realize that maybe some people actually do care about the original Snow White because they're doing a 4K restoration, but not to put out on Blu-ray and HD.
I'm curious about that. Disney has a new film, Wish, out November 22nd, that celebrates its 100-year history by dramatizing the fairy tale dream of wishing upon a star. But the company is also dipping into its vast library in honor of this landmark year, including bringing a 4K restoration of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, its first feature-length animated film to Disney+. According to the Walt Disney Press release, the 4K Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs will arrive on the streamer August 16th, noting this restored version of the 1937 classic is the result of the combined efforts of the Walt Disney Studios restoration and preservation team, working closely with key artists from Walt Disney Animation Studios. The same team have recently worked together on the critically acclaimed restorations of Walt Disney's 1950 animated classic Cinderella. Disney has a new film, Wish, out November 22nd, that celebrates its 100-year history by dramatizing the fairy tale dream of wishing upon a star. But the company is also dipping into its vast. Okay, I already said that, didn't I? Okay, never mind. I'm repeating myself. So, Walt Disney's director of restoration, Kevin Schaefer, added, "We are incredibly excited to go back to Walt's originally negative and use the current state of the art technology to restore this stunning classic to its original beauty. You can see an example of the before and after at the top of this post, and behold the final result when it arrives on Disney Plus October 16th. The pre-restoration version of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is available now on Disney Plus. Is it getting a 4K release? I'm wondering. I don't know. I don't know. Let's see. Look at what happened with the woke. There were live action film Sykes. Yes. Well, we
Very
all
sorry, I
know
didn't realize I was muted. But
you were.
I have been very
Okay.
very critical of Disney and their lack of desire to put out
Physical
any
media.
physical media. But and I kind of said something at the beginning of this, but the reality is we don't know. They may decide after they've had it out on their streaming service for a while to make it available because let's face it, they need to start generating some freaking money.
Do you remember the early days of DVD? There was a competing format of DVD called DivX. Do you remember DivX?
Yeah, there's
These
still
discs that would
videos.
like self-delete after you watched them. It was this technology. They wanted it to be a renter society back then. And who are the big backers of DivX? It was Disney.
Yeah,
They were very hostile to the idea of DVD. And even when they finally started releasing stuff on DVD, it was very bare bones feature. Then eventually they got over it and they started putting out some decent DVDs. Disney, I feel, even back then, they never wanted you to own the movies.
yeah. And the
They
problem
got
is,
over that for a period and got better about it. And I think, okay, we've passed this hump. But now it looks like they're going back to their old ways of not wanting you to own anything. Go ahead.
there's a couple of YouTube channels that deal with electronics and stuff like that that talk about the various limited life or limited view DVD attempts that they made. Here's the problem, and this is always the problem with these technological attempts to ensure copyrights and stuff on things, and it's always limiting the actual functionality of the thing. So you end up with either poor quality or inability to watch the thing even when you're doing it legally, which drives people to go, screw this. I'm not even doing this. And they go to the high seas. They're literally driving people to break the law because you don't give them a legal option,
Yeah, they don't give it the legal option, and because
It's more important to them that they keep control than they actually give you the thing you're paying for,
I have to address D. Pensek here, if you don't mind. He mentioned, wasn't that a Circuit City exclusive item? It's funny. I used to work at a store, and then that manager left to get a job at Circuit City as a manager. And I met him at a get together one time, and I said, "Hey, how are things at Circuit City?" And I asked him about Divx. What's all about this Divx? And he was trying to sell me on Divx there at the thing, and I was in the back of my mind chuckling because I hated Divx, the idea
Yeah.
of it, But it was Circuit City eventually had exclusive to it. They were another. They were like the outlet that was really pushing it. You could play both DVDs and DivX discs on ours. So ours are better. No, nobody wants DivX. It's
Well,
horrible.
not only that, now DivX, those videos of ripped DivX are still out there. People figured out a way to take. Look, anything you can put out there can be duplicated. So people would get that DivX, they'd rip it to an electronic format, and now it's on the internet forever. Congratulations.
Yeah. It's awful. Anyway, here we are with Disney, and Disney keep on coming with Disney. Let's go with a certain reboot.
Yeah, so they're rebooting the reboot already. Marvel is already rebooting its upcoming Daredevil Disney Plus reboot. Okay. I have a theory about why they're doing this. This article will not cover it, but we'll talk about that in a second.
I'm not gonna. I'll just read a couple words from it. Daredevil Born Again, Marvel Studios' forthcoming live-action Daredevil reboot, is meant to further reintroduce Charlie Cox's Matt Murdock to the Marvel Cinematic Universe following the winding down of the studio's years-long partnership with Netflix, where the original Daredevil series previously streamed. While Marvel still seems to have big plans for the Devil of Hell's Kitchen, it seems as if Born Again has hit some major production snags that are almost certain to delay its Disney Plus debut. According to a new piece from The Hollywood Reporter, Marvel has parted ways with the former Daredevil boarding and head writers Chris Ord and Matt Corman after determining that the duo's vision for the series wasn't in line with its own. After fewer than half the series' 18 episodes were shot by late September, that was all Kevin Feige and the other members of Marvel's top brass needed to see of the more straightforward legal procedural before choosing to pump the brakes and going back to square one by beginning the search for a new creative team.
Yeah.
Studio seems to have learned how valuable that role is following the tumultuous runs of recent series like Secret Invasion and She-Hulk, which both have production leads who seem to had to fight losing battles to retain creative control. But Marvel's pivot to showrunners also comes just as that role was officially been codified into the Writer Guilds of America new labor contract, partially to address situations just like this before they become problems. All right. What do you think?
So basically, they introduced Charlie Cox's Daredevil in She-Hulk, and they screwed up the character. The ESG dyed him into oblivion, and the fans revolted, and they know it's a problem. And they were going to continue on with this character the way he is. My theory is they're feeling the heat from the Nelson Peltz pending buyout. And I say pending because it's going to happen this time. And there's not going to be any negotiation. He's done exactly what I predicted. Over the past 9 months, he's been buying stock.
Because it goes down in price.
Yep. And I said this. I've been, those of you that follow me on Twitter have seen me sharing every time it drops real low, and then it'll bump back up again, and then it'll drop again, and it'll bump back up again. And I said, is this Nelson Peltz buying up stocks, or is this people in the Iger camp trying to keep Disney afloat? And I guess I gave too much credit to the Iger camp. It does look like it was what I predicted. It was Nelson Peltz, and he owns more than twice as much stock as he did at this time last year.
Yeah,
so he's gonna get everything he wants. He's coming and he's taking over.
We need someone to take over
But I think that
this
is the powers that be as they are now trying to the boss is coming. We gotta do some work real quick.
The Emperor is coming here. You know?
Exactly. That's what I think this is.
I have to tell you, this is just okay. So I think another thing that's hurting Disney. I have to tell. I think streaming's been a disaster for them. Am I wrong here? Are they getting the money they put into it?
Let's imagine a world where Disney put out their entire back catalog on Disney Plus. Okay. And as they continued to make, Disney exclusive shows, did them with excellence, the kind of excellence they did back in the days of Walt. Let's imagine that. I know it's a fantastical stretch, but think about it hypothetically for a moment. Okay. Maybe they would have many, many more subscribers today than they actually do under those circumstances.
Yeah.
They're still not going to make more. There is a point of saturation. That those shows do not make money. They just perpetuate the subscribers you currently have. They maintain status quo. You are putting millions of dollars into making content that shows you zero additional payback.
Yeah.
That is the streaming service in a nutshell. They are leaving money on the table when they don't make movies and put them out in cinema, when they don't put out physical media, and when they make shit that nobody cares about so they don't buy the toys and the costumes and the lunchboxes.
Yeah.
That is why Disney is going bankrupt, and that's why they're being bought out by Nelson Peltz now.
Let's go to this next article. I thought this was interesting. I saw this on one of my gaming sites of all places.
Here, let me give you the pivot on this. So while Disney is losing money and basically going bankrupt, they're doubling and tripling and quadrupling down, not only on their stupid ESG bullshit, But on buy. With what money? I don't care. Just buy. We got to buy Hulu. And now we've also got to buy a gaming company because we got rid of LucasArts. Now we're going to buy a different gaming company.
They got LucasArts. They used to have Disney Interactive. That was before they had LucasArts. They had Disney Interactive. They shut that down.
Yeah.
You shut down Disney Interactive. Now, to be fair, I'm trying to be. LucasArts was not in the best of shape when Lucasfilm was acquired by Disney, but they could have built it back up.
Right.
They even had a Star Wars game in pre-production over
Yeah,
there. It was going to be like
exactly.
it was actually going to be a more like a darker Star Wars game, I think, from like the criminal's point of view.
And I think it was supposed to be like open world too.
Yeah, it was going to be a big thing, and that got scrapped as soon as it was picked up, as soon as Kathleen Kennedy took over, and
Of
then
course
basically it was shut down. But anyway, in a report published by Bloomberg via VGC, it seems not that all is not happy at the House of Mouse, with reports of discontent following comment made before the SAG-AFTRA strike and a handful of flops at the box office. And the one way executives have suggested that Disney can get back on even footing is by looking at video games. What? What are these video games you speak of? Anyway, apparently, publishers Electronic Arts and Ubisoft have been mentioned, and both have a very recent history of handling a number of Disney IPs. But Iger, who is currently in his second term as CEO after returning to the position in November, has reportedly been non-committal. That's because he's old and doesn't understand that you need a game division in your company. Warner Brothers, I have plenty of nasty things to say Warner Brothers. They have a games division. The company known as Midway, we used to call them Midway. They made the Mortal Kombat games. They were acquired by Warner Brothers. That's their game division. So I guess the idea is Disney should buy either Electronic Arts or Ubisoft. I would beg the question, though, with what money? These game
That's
companies
exactly
aren't cheap.
it.
These are major publishers. It will not.
They're still obligated to purchase Hulu, which I don't think they're going to be able to do. And now they're supposed to come up with the money to buy
Electronic Arts. Are you nuts? With what money?
And let me tell you what's even worse about that. EA Games. Okay, so what is the value of EA?
I don't know, but they're one of the most hated companies in gaming.
Yes, they are. There's some
so
huge problems with it, but they have exclusive rights on NFL. So they are the big game in town for big games. Yes. For sports related games.
They have NFL,
that's their big thing. The other thing that they have, the Sims. And the Sims are big, but it is chock full of the ESG. They've gotten rid of genders in the Sims and all kinds of stuff. It's kind of funny because what they've done is they've gotten rid of all the things that people were creating cracks for, so that they can cross dress and have gay relationships and multiple genders and stuff.
If Sims of old, if Disney had the rights to it, Disney could do stuff with the Sims. You could do a TV series. You could do a attraction at a park, maybe based on the Sims.
They actually did.
You could put Disney stuff in the Sims, like people going to like a Disneyland type theme park or something.
They actually put a Sims download into Sims 4. Of course, it's a paid download, but it was all new Star Wars, Batu and BB-8 and all that kind of stuff. All the costumes were from the sequels. Yeah, it was very very clear where their loyalties were, and so
that was probably at the same time EA was making Star Wars games for. That was when EA made Star Wars Battlefront, and it's like there's no single player mode. Oscar Isaac was a little annoyed. He's like, I just want to play a single player game. Then they did Battlefront 2, which had all of that gambling type stuff in it, where you had to pay money to get these loot boxes that may or may not have a character you want to play. Like, oh, you want to play Luke Skywalker, you got to pay money, and maybe you'll win the chance to. And it was almost like they were introducing gambling into this.
It is. That's what loot boxes are. They basically are gambling.
Complete disaster. And that was the other big disaster going with the Star Wars at the same time as The Last Jedi, was this Battlefront 2 game.
Mm-hmm.
And the original Battlefront games were highly regarded. The ones made back in the day by LucasArts. They were highly. I heard one person comment. They were like, "It's like someone made a game out of you playing with Star Wars action figures." That's what it was commented in vehicles. It was like they based a game around that, But
there's there's a theory going around that ties back to this last article that part of the reason they made this announcement, even though they know it can't happen, is to posture for we know we're gonna make profit. We have plans. See, we're doing things, boss. And I think Nelson Peltz is gonna come along and go, nope, it's time for the adults to take over. You don't have the money to do this. Let me look into this and I'll decide. And if I decide, I'll buy a game company.
Ridiculous. Don't buy EA. EA hasn't always been bad.
I saw another article. If Disney buys EA, it would be bad for everyone. I'm like, you think? You think?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't hate everything EA did. They did a really good Guitar Hero competitor called Rock Band, which I actually rather enjoyed, but because they had more indie type bands in that game. But I don't know. Here we go.
Let's give some more grief to Disney. They're not done with the Me Too.
No. This is only beginning. And let me tell you something. If Julie Ramond is suing, you'll have other people coming out of the woodwork, especially if she wins.
Good.
This is going to be a trail. But this is a kind of a follow-up to last week's article. She was interviewed on Monday in Rolling Stone. We're not gonna read the whole article. We'll be here all night, but I took some questions, Q&As from this article where they're asking her. Okay, so this is the reporter. I wanted to discuss CAA's statement about your allegations and their decision to call them completely without merit. Okay, this is the CAA represents actors. That's the thing Brian Lord belongs to, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it was an agency. Their response. This is her response. Their response now is not particularly a surprise because I know that what their previous responses have been. They're continuing on with behaviors that have protected them so far. I will say that I've been very clear with my law firm that my condition around finding a settlement is that I will not sign an NDA. All right. Reporter goes on to say, CAA also accused you of asking for $15 million. They're essentially framing it like you're out of money. This is Driller Man. There's a pushback that's about discrediting people, and part of it is, oh, this person just wants money. I think I've lived a life that has made it very clear that what I want is accountability and transparency. Disney was using that crap on Scarlett Johansson too, right?
Yep.
Oh, she's just being greedy. No, you're violating your contract, but that's another thing. Let's talk about Disney's alleged role in this as well. Disney purchased Miramax in 1993, and Harvey and Bob Weinstein ran it until they left in 2005 to start the Weinstein Company. A number of women, yourself included, have claimed that they were sexually assaulted by Weinstein during that 12-year period, and your suit alleges that Disney had to have known about Weinstein's predatory behavior. Julie Ramon's response. In the complaint, it's pretty clear and lays out the relationship that Miramax had with Disney. Those were details that I only got access to because if you bring a legal case, lawyers have access to information that you might not as a member of the general public. Having a legal team, which is something I was very uncertain of because it could be re-traumatizing, has been very clarifying to me in a spectacular way. It's given me the opportunity to get to what that relationship between Miramax and Disney was. From my newfound perspective, it feels like Disney just washed their hands of it. Instead of confronting it or holding them accountable, they continue to profit from it. And that sort of stuff that I think comes out in Discovery. There are a lot of people who think that the enablers got off scot-free, and Disney is a part of that. They may feel that they're one step removed and that they're nevertheless part of a chain of events. My hope is that as an industry, we can come together to fashion a better response, and Disney does not double down in a defensiveness that will block their participation. This is an opportunity for them. And this is the last question I think I have. What do you hope to accomplish with this lawsuit, bringing about systemic change? Joel responds, yes. The way that I see it is that accountability will lead to greater information. I hope that the industry will step up to fund ongoing research, potentially even a government task force that looks at all of these things, not just sexual assault and sexual harassment, but bias, race, and other ways in which people are put into either unsafe or unequal work circumstances. We need to step up to the level of climate surveys in our industry that have real clarity. We live in a world where we have technology so companies can gather data of how many settlements a company has reached with employees and what the depth of the harm is. We have the ability to grade all of those things and come up with a score. Then, as an employee, before this happens to you, you could see if I go to work for company A, they got an A plus or they got an F. I don't know. I don't like this idea of this government task force. That gives me some
Yep,
trepidation.
I agree with you.
I'm sure the intentions are good here on Julie Armand's part, but I could see this spiraling out of control in the other direction.
I understand this concept
Yeah.
of being proactive, but when it comes to enforcement of law, no, you have to let people commit the crime before you can convict and persecute.
Yeah. Creative Artists Agency. Yeah, and it looks like we'll see if this cure ends up being worse than the disease, but I understand her anger. I do believe she is being honest when I think the things that happened to her did happen to her. I do believe her. Granted, everyone's due their day in court, even Harvey Weinstein, but
yep.
I think that Disney too, and I'm tired of it always being, and I felt like during the whole Me Too movement, Hollywood then aimed its ire at the entire United States, and it's like, well, it's a cultural problem. It's like, well, this is a cultural problem with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Not with
right.
the whole country. There are
Ricky Gervais broke it down really well for us.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, that's all.
Yeah. What did he have that saying? Yes. Remember he said.
Yeah.
You
don't have any moral ground to stand on. Is what he basically
Epstein
said.
is your friend. He's your friend, not mine. Remember he said that?
Yeah.
Because he's a British actor, so he's not necessarily tied to Hollywood. It's
True.
Just, well, to be fair, British actors work for Hollywood all the time, but you know what I mean. It's just,
right, but they're not beholden to him in any way.
No. Yeah,
no,
but
absolutely true.
Anyway, I do feel bad that her career was destroyed by most likely these events that happened, and she needs recompense, and there does need to be change. But again, I just don't want the cure to end up being worse than the disease. We have to tread carefully here, but we'll see.
Yep.
Frankly, looks like Disney's going to have a day of reckoning with this. But
someone else who's going to be having a day of reckoning is Warner Brothers.
The day's already. No, the day was here. The day was probably a couple of years ago. In my opinion, Warner Brothers employees believe studio will be sold in the next 2 years. I think that Warner Brothers is a dead studio walking. I think that how can companies survive these
they're making very different mistakes from Disney, but they're still making consistently the same mistakes.
Well, I for all I know, Disney can recover. Maybe it can, maybe it can't. Warner Brothers just seems like I think they've made too many mistakes. I mean, it's funny. There's a line on The Apprentice once with a certain former president, remember Donald Trump, and I think he fired some guy on one of the teams, and one of the comments he made was too many mistakes. And he's right. If you make too many mistakes, I don't care what your intentions were.
Yeah,
you're done, especially in business. Now, there was a lot of stupidity going on at Warner Brothers. In fact, I think I started out this channel ranting more about Warner Brothers than I was about Disney back in the day. And I kept thinking Zaslav's coming through, they're changing, but I don't know if any. But here's
there was a great line in I think it was the first Heir to the Empire book.
Yeah.
Where there's a battle and something goes wrong. Someone makes a mistake. And after the battle, Thrawn turns and says, "Who did this, that, and the other?" "I did, sir." And he said, "That's it. I'm dead. I'm dead. I'm a dead man." He goes, "What did you do wrong?" He said, "Well, I did this and I did that and I should have done this, that, and the other." He said, "Will you ever make that mistake again?" "No, sir, I would never." He said, "All right." And then he looks around and he goes, "Well, what did you think? I was going to kill you? I'm not Lord Vader. You don't learn, unless..." He said, "Now, if you had equivocated and said you did nothing wrong, that would have been a different thing." Know, because he does that to somebody else who, says, "No, I didn't do anything wrong." "Okay, you're dead."
Well, it's a difference. Yeah, it's
this is what I see happening with Warner Brothers. They make a mistake and then they turn around and they make the same damn mistake. And then they do it again and again and again. They did one thing right. They realized their mistake with Batgirl and scrapped the fucker. They should have done it with Flash. They should have done it with Aquaman. We'll get to Aquaman in a second. But
made stupid decisions.
They are every decision. And Zaslav even said the right thing and never acted on it. He said, "We are damaging our brand." And then turns around and continues to allow Warner Brothers to damage the brand, being, DC.
He should have gone to DC Comics a while ago and just cleaned house.
Yep.
The fact that it is still the cesspool that it is Does he not care? I'm sorry. The comic book has to
Or
be good.
at least what he should have done was said, look, to the people making DC films, screw all the new shit, okay? You plan out a decade or two of story arc based on classic, time-tested stories with these characters. Go do it.
Yes.
None of this reboot bullshit.
But I also think the comic book lines also had to basically, when those 2 decades are gone with you doing the classics, you need new classics from the 2 decades of writing.
True.
I mean, they're going to run out of stuff eventually. I mean, I know you could argue it's endless, but the point is, the comics division's just been a disaster. I don't really like talking about DC Comics. That's how bad it got over there. But I'm not seeing a lot of action by Zaslav, and I'm starting to think that maybe, I don't know if he planned this from the get-go, or maybe when he came in, he just decided this is a dead studio walking. We have to sell. We have to also be able to turn things around and be able to sell it to the highest bidder.
We had predicted
so the investors don't get pissed off,
We had speculated 6 months ago, I think. See, we really need to keep track of when we make predictions so that we could bring them back and say, see, we were right. That all of this stuff with James Gunn is not a true reboot, to reboot the DC universe. It's really just window dressing.
Yes.
It's window dressing to say, look, we have this character and this. It's not just Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. We also have, the Peacemaker, and we've got these other obscure characters and so on and so forth. And Creature Commandos. You didn't even know about them, right? I think that's what it is.
You remember when he was doing that whole shebang, I'm like, why are you pitching this to us, the audience? He wasn't. This wasn't for us. This was for a potential buyer.
Yep.
Most likely Universal. Creature Commandos. Think about Creature Commandos. What is Creature Commandos? It's a team of monsters, like in World War II setting, right? And one of them is led by the Frankenstein monster.
Right.
Hint, hint. You can use Creature Commandos you can use your Universal Monster classic monsters and use them in this Creature Commando series.
Oh, dude, I didn't even
just
make
figured
that
out a couple days ago. I think neither did I till like a couple days ago. I'm like, that's why he keeps pushing Creature Commandos. I'm like, I'm not even saying Creature Commandos is bad. It may be a great comic series and maybe we should get adapted, but it's not exactly a known property, right? And I'm thinking, why does he keep pushing this? I think it's because he thinks he's trying to say Universal. You've been having trouble with your dark universe and what to do with your monsters. You can integrate them into the DC universe with this Creature Commandos thing.
I hate to say this, and I hate to be a downer on this. Yes, it could be that the only hope for DC is to get sold off, but it's also going to destroy DC because literally DC Comics has been owned by Warner Brothers for as long as we've had live action, DC characters. The original Christopher Reeve Superman, copyright Warner Brothers. So what happens to all of that property when it all gets sold off?
I don't know.
It's going to be splitting the proverbial baby again.
Well, are they just planning to sell DC, or are they planning to sell the whole studio? I think maybe when originally Zaslav showed up, he was thinking, what can we sell off? I think now it's selling off the whole studio. I want you to think about this for a second. Warner Brothers has exclusivity on Harry Potter. They're rebooting that series. Who would love to own Harry Potter? Universal, because they own the parks.
Right.
In fact, for a while, they even had it exclusive on Peacock. Now, this is just speculation on my part. Don't take anything with this. This is just me thinking out loud. But I think that Warner Brothers, they have 47 point something billion dollars worth of debt. And what are they bringing out that's successful? The Barbie movie did well. Not that I cared for that movie, but it was a big hit over the summer. I'm thinking, and everything else.
They can have their Mattel universe and sell off everything else. I see what you're saying.
No. My point is my point is, that was the only movie they had that was a big success. What else did they have? They had The Flash, which I thought they were hoping to break,
which lost money.
Happen.
That lost them a fortune.
Blue Beetle
lost money.
And I suspect it was due to The Flash. Of course, some of the marketing didn't help with that, with the whole Batman's a fascist nonsense, which they should have kept out of the trailer at least. What else did they have? Shazam bombed as well. I don't think they had any faith in it, but I don't know why they spend hundreds of millions of dollars on these movies and then they just let them flounder. I mean, The Flash had the problem with the actor, but Shazam could have been a thing. I mean, I don't know. Was it a good movie? I didn't bother to see it, but
I didn't see it either.
it's just this is a bit of a disaster. Let me read the first article. Actually,
Yeah.
I'm going to go on a Warner Brothers rant in a minute because I'll go. It's a personal thing, but let me read this first article. Warner Brothers employees. This is from Bounding in the Comics, also referencing Variety. I'm not going to read the whole article. I just have some segments from it. A new report claims that Warner Brothers will be sold off within the next years, making upcoming DC subplots feel quaint. The new report from Variety's Tatiana Siegel states that some on the lot are convinced that another company, most likely Universal, will buy Warner Brothers within 2 years, making recent DC subplots and upheavals feel quaint. She goes on to cite Wall Street analyst and venture capitalist Rich Greenfield, who informed her the bottom line is they need to get DC to work, whether Zaslav owns it, whether Brian Roberts owns it, whether somebody else owns it. Interestingly, Variety report lends credence to a rumor from YouTuber Seal Abdul, who shared back in July that James Gunn's upcoming Superman Legacy film is a way of showcasing that DC world to a potential buyer.
Oh, okay.
And that made sense because I'm thinking, well, remember at the time he says, why is he pitching it to me?
Yeah.
And that's like, that's not what that was about. He wrote on X, James Gunn's originally aimed for Superman Legacy to simply be a Superman story, which would have been great, but we can't have that. And it still is, but the inclusion of this already full DC world backdrop seems to have been pushed by Zaslav. That's why we're seeing Guy Gardner, Green Lantern, and Metamorpho and these other characters.
Yeah, and that's always worked out real well for Marvel, right? When they make it less about the character that the movie's titled after and more about the next movies.
There's a way you can make it work. Remember Captain America... Winter Soldier, you had Nick Fury, you had Black Widow in it as a helper, and then Falcon showed up, and that movie didn't feel crowded with those extra heroes.
It was
just
still
didn't
about feel like
a
Captain America movie anymore. It felt more like an Avengers movie.
Well, no, but I'm talking about not Civil War. I'm talking about Winter Soldier when he was going after Bucky, came back, and you just had Falcon and Black Widow assisting Captain America. They weren't at the forefront. It was still a Captain America.
You're better off with them not assisting and being part of the movie. You're better off making them cameos, and that's it. Just letting you know they're still in the universe.
But I never felt like either of them overtook. Steve Rogers. I'm just saying. I don't know. In a follow-up video, Abdul detailed James Gunn, to his credit, was trying to do. I don't say a simple Superman story, but it wasn't going to be a DC-filled world to the extent that we're going to get. This was Zaslav's call to put in more DC characters. James Gunn, his approach was always going to try to go the Bruce Timm route, Justice League Unlimited. That's what I was told because of just the wider range of characters. Am I confused here? Are they doing the same mistakes they've done before and they're repeating the same mistakes?
Sounds like it to me.
Let's start out with Justice League and Batman versus Superman, where Wonder Woman shows up and we're having all these characters showing up instead of just having it be a Superman story like with Marvel, how you had an Iron Man story, an Incredible Hulk story, Thor, Captain America. Then you do the Avengers, and maybe you might have a cameo by one of the characters for like 5 minutes. Like at the end of Incredible Hulk, you had Tony Stark show up at the end talking to the general.
Yeah, I think you're right. This is a window display for sale of the property.
And maybe if they sell the property, they'll still keep the actors and Gunn on and keep making movies in this new thing. I think that's
only if it does well. If it doesn't, they'll buy it up for the properties and then reboot again.
I think all this is about is propping up the price of either Warner Brothers as a whole or at least DC and a couple other properties. I don't know. I think Warner Brothers is in deep trouble with all the debt they have. I think that they had idiots running the company like Jason Killar.
No matter what anybody
Sarnoff,
says,
I think her name was, and Walter Hamada, who's over at Universal. I had a funny thought that they'll sell DC to Universal and then they'll put Walter Hamada in charge of it again or something.
Yeah.
Because he went over to Universal for Boomhouse, remember?
Regardless of what anyone else says, there is no such thing as too big to fail. And I think that the entertainment industry is on the razor's edge right now. I think a lot of these studios, Disney, Warner Brothers, a lot of them are just this close to going bankrupt. They're near that tipping point. Something has to change really damn soon.
And weren't some DC characters tied up in the J.J. Abrams deal? If that deal is anyway still valid. He still has a contract over there at Warner Brothers doing what? I'm not sure. I do know that there was the interesting thing where him and Bruce Timm were supposed to do a new Batman animated series. That wasn't, it was just a new animated series of Batman. It wasn't tied to the old one. And we were wondering if it was tied to the Pattinson Batman series, if it was going to be its own thing. But apparently HBO or Max or whatever, they said, no, we're not going to fund that. No. But then it moved to Amazon.
Yeah.
And I think there must have been something in James Gunn contract that allowed him to at least shop it around if HBO or Max wasn't interested. And Amazon snatched it up. So now you're going to have a Batman animated series on Amazon Prime, a competitor to Max.
Yep.
And another
that
Batman,
make a lot of
and
sense
another
at
Batman in the mix. What do you think of that?
Yeah, that's what I said. We got 25 different Batmans at one time. Congratulations, you know. But you know what though? I mean, they have one more shot this year to make it work. Aquaman ought to save it all, right?
Go ahead and post this.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Now, one thing I will say in defense, I think this article talks about it a bit, but I didn't really quote from that. But Aquaman was one of the more successful of the Snyderverse movies. It came out during a holiday season where there was no Star Wars movie because that was the year Solo came out in the summer and bombed terribly. So Disney didn't have anything to release, and Aquaman did very well because people needed to see something over the holidays. People like to go see movies over the, the Christmas holidays, but there was nothing out except Aquaman. And this movie did very well in China as well. For some reason, they loved Aquaman in China. They loved Ant-Man as well, which I thought was interesting. That's funny how the article starts out. These waters are getting choppy. On the same day in mid-September that Warner
Brothers... a lot of puns in this article.
yeah. On the same day in mid-September that Warner Brothers dropped the trailer for its $250 million Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Embarrassing documents from the Johnny Depp Amber Heard defamation trial surfaced on Reddit, creating a new headache for the studio behind the film. Depp fans paid the court fees for the release of documents from Heard's therapist, Dr. Dawn Hughes. The raw notes scribbled on legal pad were part of last year's high-profile trial in which Depp largely prevailed. They describe a hostile Aquaman set where an allegedly intoxicated Jason Momoa dressed like Depp and pushed to have Heard booted from the role of aquatic superhero Mira. Jason said he wanted me fired, the note says. Jason, drunk, late on set, dressing like Johnny, has all the rings too. A representative for Momoa declined to comment, but a DC spokesperson pushed back on Heard's characterization, saying Jason Momoa conducted himself in a professional manner at all times on the set of Aquaman and Lost Kingdom. Others echoed that sentiment. Jason works his ass off, likes to have a beer once in a while like everyone, but doesn't show up drunk on set, says an insider who was on the London set in 2021, adding that the two stars got along and were just joking together. And he isn't dressing like Johnny Depp. He has always dressed in that bohemian style. Yeah. I do believe this. I mean, I've had issues with some of the statements Momoa's made about
anybody who paid any attention to.
But I believe he was a professional in the set too. Yeah.
Anyone who paid any attention to the defamation trial knows this is the kind of bullshit that she's been saying all along about Johnny, making up stories with zero proof. In fact, there was plenty of proof to the contrary. And now she's doing the same thing all over again with someone else. Now, this is who she is, and everybody knows it by now except for her simps.
No, she shared this during a therapy session, correct?
Yeah. Which only came up because her team brought that stuff into evidence. It was their own fault.
Very dumb. There's a reason. Yeah.
But there's also a reason it's coming up now. Which, what outlet was it that put this out? Was it Variety?
It was Variety, I think, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason that the mainstream media is sharing this now, instead of last year during the trial.
Yeah, it says Heard declined to comment, but a source says to the actress confirmed the notes referred to Aquaman 2 set and reflect a session from December 27, 2021. Another source close to the actress says her lawyers fought the release of the therapy notes. Okay, yeah. They were subpoenaed.
And I'm sharing a tab with you right now. We might want to remind people that this is still out there and people still talk about it from time to time.
What is? Do I have
a tab that I shared you? Yeah.
Yeah, this one. Okay, yeah. Yeah, and it's just the... And then Elon Musk got involved. I don't know if I have that in here, but yeah, let me keep going. And she goes after James Wan. Now, James Wan is a very He's a good director. He did a lot of the Fast and the Furious movies. He also directed the Conjuring movies, the first two Conjuring movies of all things. Kind of a big departure, don't you think? Those two
Yeah.
types of movies. But he directed the first Aquaman movie, which I think is probably why it was one of the better of the Snyderverse movies, because he's at least a competent action director. But
Right.
he raised his voice to me, can't even post. Okay, so she's going after James
Look in
Wan.
the green room. I'm sharing a tab with you. Bring that up.
Oh, that's what you're talking about.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Remember this, guys? 4,631,000 signatures to remove Amber Heard from Aquaman 2. And this has been going since 2019. Okay? There was 138 people who signed it this week. They know that this is a noose around their neck. And now it's looking like the only reason they've been keeping her around is because Elon put pressure on them. But now Elon is feeling the heat from the Amber backlash.
Yeah.
So that is not good either, you know?
Yeah. It's just ridiculous. I'm trying to think if I have anything here about Elon Musk popping in here. Yeah, ultimately, the studio never pulled the trigger on firing Heard because her former wife, Elon Musk, had one of his litigators send a scorched earth letter to the Warner Brothers threatening to burn the house down if the actress wasn't brought back for a sequel. Says a source familiar with the behind-the-scenes battle, Warner Brothers caved to move forward with Heard. You had a bunch of idiots running that company. I think that was Ann Sarnoff. There was Ann. Guess what is it? They fired Johnny Depp from Fantastic Beasts, and he was a major draw to those movies, because he was playing the villain in those movies. And I heard people that were fans of those movies saying they're not going to see the third one without Johnny Depp. And no offense to Mads Mikkelsen, he's a good actor, but the fact is they were wanting Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
The drama has been rehashed at a time when DC Entertainment toppers James Gunn and Peter Safran are poised to close the book on the previous regime's superhero slate with the December 20th release of Aquaman and Lost Kingdom. Since Warner Brothers chiefs Pan Abdi and Mike DeLuca joined the studio in June 2022, followed by Gunn and Safran's entrance 4 months later. The four have been saddled with DC duds they inherited, including this year's The Flash and Blue Beetle. I don't think that Warner Brothers, though, they knew what to do with Blue Beetle. Am I wrong here? You there?
Yeah, it was not. It was not. There has not been any kind of outline to what they're doing. They're just grabbing characters, throwing them at the wall, and seeing if they stick, without thinking, how do these characters integrate into a larger universe?
Like Cyborg. Remember Cyborg?
Oh yeah, we need a black character. Let's stick him in there instead of going, gee, we already have Jon Stewart that could be in the Justice League. They don't think it through at all.
Anyway, though, this is from later in the article. Regardless, some on the lot are convinced this is what we were talking about earlier. A company most likely Universal will buy Warner Brothers within 2 years, making recent DC subplots and if people feel quaint. Bottom line is they need to get DC to work, whether Zaslav owns it, whether Brian Robert owns it, whether somebody else owns it, says Light Sheds, Rich Greenfield, a Wall Street analyst and venture capitalist. Where is DC right now in the zeitgeist with popular culture?
Nobody gives a flying fig about them except the Snyder bots. Seriously.
In the old days, Warner Brothers, like when they would mess up with something like Batman and Robin, they would at least be making these cool cartoons like Superman the Animated Series or the New Adventures of Batman.
There was something to fall back on.
They had other things going on. And they just don't do the animated series anymore like they used to. And when unless it's like Velma, which is a
God.
In the run-up to the Aquaman sequel, Warner Brothers will outwardly back the film and hope for a China release like its Barbie, The Flash, and Shazam Fury the guys received. After all, the first Aquaman earned nearly $300 million in China alone, but those types of China numbers are a thing of the past. Neither Barbie nor The Flash landed anything close to Aquaman's Middle Kingdom haul from 2018, earning $35.1 million and $25.9 million there respectively. So they're not expecting China to be backing this up like they did the first one, because that was a big reason for its success.
Yep.
I want to go on a bit of a rant.
Go for it. Do it.
Amazon Prime Days, where they're saying it's Prime Day, you can get deals, right?
Yeah.
So I went on there and I saw that they had my Teen Titans DVDs got destroyed in the flood, so I was
Yeah.
without them. But then they had the Blu-ray set on sale for rather cheap, for like $22 or $23. That's a good price, I think, for the entire series, don't you?
Yeah.
The original Teen Titans, not that Teen Titans Go crap.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Right.
they also had the Batman on sale. The Batman was another Batman animated series, not connected to the original Batman animated series, and made in the early 2000s. I think it was to coincide with the release of Batman Begins. I remember at the time not liking this as much as Batman the animated series, but I felt it's still better than anything DC or Warner Brothers has done recently. It's still good enough. It's like on the level of that what was the name of that show? Legion of Superheroes show. I kind of counted along that. And I got this set. It was $29.99. And it comes with the Blu-ray set, and it comes with a digital copy of the entire series. Now, as you know, I've ceased purchasing digital stuff since Vudu would not refund me the money after I purchased the French Connection and Disney censored it, because I thought, just give me a store credit. No, they won't do that. Well, okay, well, then I'm not going to buy digital copies on your platform. But if I get a DVD and it comes with a digital copy, I'll still redeem it. It's still convenient. You can just stream it. You get the best of both worlds when you get a digital copy with your Blu-ray. So I went to redeem it today after it came in the mail, right?
Right.
I go online, go to Vudu, go to Warner Brothers, and it said, this code is no longer valid. And I'm like, what the heck is going on here? And then I see on the code expired in March. And I'm like, are you kidding me? The whole DVD digital copy code expiration thing went out years ago. Usually when you get a digital code, it's good for a long time, at least 5 years. This thing's not even 2 years old yet. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I bought this, says here on the cardboard packaging. And I'm going online and they're saying since Zaslav took over, that's when these codes started expiring again. And I'm thinking I bought this partly because it was coming with a digital copy. Yeah. So I'm a little pissed about this. And granted, I still have the hard copy. I still have the Blu-ray discs, and that's more important than the digital copy. But if I can get both, that's great. And I feel this is Warner Brothers kind of kicking me, the customer, in the face after I buy their product, and I'm pissed about this.
Yeah, so I highly recommend you own your physical media, and then you rip it to make your own digital copy.
Which is what I'm going to have to do, because basically they ripped me off.
Yep.
Let's be honest here.
Yep, and you're not breaking any rules. This is what free. What do you call it? A fair use is to make a copy of something for your own personal use. You're not turning around and reselling it. Ridiculous. You have a right to do that.
The whole reason why they started giving out digital copies with DVDs is because they were trying to get people away from maybe going up to the 5Cs and all this other stuff, because some people just like to have a digital copy. It says, look, here, you'll get your physical, but you'll get the digital with it. It's just convenience. And I'm thinking, okay, that's cool. They used to have, in the great days of Blu-ray, you used to get the DVD with it, a Blu-ray with it, and a digital copy. You got all three. Now, I understand not giving out a DVD with this set because it's an entire TV series. And I'm sure it's a good and I'm not blaming the makers of the TV series. I'm still glad I own it. Would I bought it without the digital copy? I don't know. I think maybe I would have, maybe I wouldn't have. But that was kind of the thing that swayed me. And the fact that the digital copy doesn't work pisses me off. And I'm thinking, Warner Brothers, now is not the time for you to be pissing me, the customer, off right now.
Yeah.
And I can already tell you, I'm just getting the feeling that all of this Superman Legacy, all this stuff they're doing, it's not about extending the health of Warner Brothers for the future. I think it's just about trying to get the highest price for it when they know they have to sell. Yeah. I think they're a dead studio walking. This is my opinion about them. I think they've made too many stupid decisions after stupid decisions. And it might explain to the fact that they're not cleaning up other parts of the studio, like getting rid of Velma. Velma should not exist. Scooby-Doo is actually one of your higher profile family properties. You should not be having a show like Velma, tarnishing that. Yeah, tarnishing the brand. Even with it being crude and bad humor, it's not for kids. This show is not for kids. This is a children's program. I don't understand what they're doing over there. And it's like Zaslav's whole focus is DC and maybe Harry Potter. And now I've become convinced it's just about doing a quick sell. He doesn't care about Turner Classic Movies. He fired everybody there. So he doesn't care about and I'm thinking, I don't know. And I'm thinking, even as much as I'm angry at Warner Brothers, I'm saying, some of you out there, you want to buy some classic Warner Brothers movies, now may be the time, because I have a suspicion Warner Brothers is just not going to be around in a couple of years.
You're probably right.
They're going to get sold off, probably Universal. That might be the best scenario for them, because Universal might at least take care of the back catalog, because I don't think they're like a Disney where they would start censoring stuff. But
But who knows?
And I'm seeing it'll be another great studio fading away, much like 20th Century Fox did. And I'm thinking, is anything going to be left of Hollywood? I
Yeah.
used to love Warner Brothers. Used to love them more than Disney. I thought they were a great studio. New Line Cinema, that was another element of Warner Brothers. They were doing great stuff in the '90s, and then it all accumulated with the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I remember that. Just I don't get what's going on there. Okay.
Okay.
Anyway, strike is still going on.
Just wanted to make sure everybody remembers this. Yes, it is still going on. Just a reminder.
Kick me in the face, Warner Brothers. I'm holding on to this code. Maybe they'll relent in 6 months and the codes will be valid again. I don't know. Probably not.
No.
I'm not going to hold my breath there, but I'll leave it in the case for the time being. It's annoying. I know. Why are you getting all upset about the little things? It's the little things that keep us going when everything else is going to shit. Anyway, okay. Hollywood's still on strike.
Yes, it is.
After less than 2 weeks, the latest negotiations between SAG-AFTRA and the studios and streamers have been broken down and been suspended, according to the AMPTP.
So many acronyms.
I'm getting tired of the acronyms. This entire strike has been acronym city, and I'm just getting okay. After meaningful conversations, it is clear that the gap between the AMPTP and the SAG-AFTRA is too great, and conversations are no longer moving us in a productive direction, said Carol Lombardini-led group said in a statement late tonight after what was ascribed to Deadline by one source as much rockier than usual talks. Tonight's suspension of negotiations with the 160,000 strong Actors Guild is similar in scope and tactics when barely resumed talks with the scribes fell apart mid-August, and the AMPTP released its most recent offer in a move to turn the WG members against Guild leadership, landing another blow to the $5 billion hit the greater LA County economy has taken since May over the strikes. Yeah, LA is getting hit over this. So yeah, yep. What do we think?
No, I have no opinions. I think that the longer it goes on, really, the better for us. This is a big part of why, for example, our previous article about Daredevil. The reason they even can retool is because, normally if they were to do this now, Cox and whoever else is tied to the show would be like, you know what? I don't have time for this. I have other options. Yeah. Well, they don't have other options right now. There's nowhere else for them to go. They're sitting around doing nothing. So now is a great time. If you're going to retool something, retool it now,
Where is the MCU right now?
In the toilet.
Okay, all right. Let's see. I know how you feel, Agent Boomer. Used to work for Warner Brothers years ago. I'm telling you, I bet it was a better place to work for years ago. I feel bad for the people working there. They're the ones that are going to get hit. The executives always get the golden parachutes, and it's the regular workers that were trying to do the right thing. They're the ones that get cast out. I mean, to be fair, some of these writers deserve to lose their jobs over what's transpired, but yeah, so I don't know. Do you think the strike is ever going to end? Or is this just like now it's the actors' turn to negotiate and maybe in 3 months?
If it goes on long enough, the companies are going to say, screw you, we're doing it all with AI, and then just fire everybody. And yeah, then it'll end because all the people will be out of work.
Yeah, well, I like actors when they know what they're doing, not when they're former YouTube stars that can't shut their mouth. But
let's cancel the people that actually create the stuff we love. Let's just keep shitting on the heads of the people with the properties we actually care about. Apparently, Seattle Museum of Pop Culture cancels J.K. Rowling's again.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a little bit of an advice for y'all in the chat too. You can use this. Before I start this. If you're ever wondering, like, if a coworker or like a younger coworker, like if a millennial or maybe a bit younger, someone in their 20s, especially if it's I'm not going to say men like Harry Potter too, but a lot of women liked Harry Potter, right? It was a big thing with a lot of women I knew. Start talking about Harry Potter and how great this book J.K. Rowling was. Like, if you've read the book, start talking about it and see how they react, and you can see how far left they are. If they
Yeah.
still like the book and, they still may tangentially disagree about the whole thing, but if they get very angry and say, they say, yeah, but I can't stand J.K. Rowling now. If they're one of these I can't stand J.K. Rowling types, even though they used to love Harry Potter, you can
Right.
tell they're on the far left.
Yup.
It's a good little litmus test you can do without outing yourself as in any political sphere. What do you think of that?
No, I think you're absolutely right. And you got to
It's the
believe
Harry Potter test. Yeah.
this is exactly what employers do. Be careful when you're in interviews. When they ask you a question that seems like it's just them being nice, making conversation about pop culture and stuff like that,
Yeah.
think about why they're asking you that.
There are tests you can do.
It's a test. And they're trying to find out something about you. They're not supposed to be trying to find out about you. Just watch.
See, now I, as someone who studied writing and everything, I can even if I hate a writer, I can as a person I can appreciate her craft, and she was a very good writer. She's still a very good writer, J.K. Rowling, and
Right.
and I wouldn't just bring that up when I'm talking about her craft. I would separate the art from the artist. So you can
Yeah.
tell when someone's really committed when they start bringing up that when you're just talking about the quality of the writing itself. But all right, and speaking of which, and this is basically ties into this article here. A Seattle Museum of Pop Culture canceled J.K. Rowling again. A Seattle museum has airbrushed J.K. Rowling from its Hall of Fame and Harry Potter exhibition over her gender critical views. The Museum of Pop Culture in Washington hit out at the famous author and accused her of holding super hateful and divisive opinions. It defended its decision to remove all references to Rowling, 58, in a lengthy blog post on Saturday. The museum still has Harry Potter memorabilia on display, but any mention of the author of the franchise has been airbrushed. Rowling has faced criticism for her views on transgender issues after she argued women should not be fired for believing biological sex is real. Its expositions project manager Chris Moore, who is transgender and uses the pronouns he, they. I can never wrap my head around that. Okay, confirmed the museum would no longer contain any references to Rowling. There's a certain cold, heartless, joy sucking entity in the world of Harry Potter, and this time it is not actually a Dementor, he wrote in a 1,400 word blog post on Saturday. I almost want to read that blog post because that's a lot.
Yeah.
He must have gone on an unhinged rant, or she, or they, or whatever. Yes. We would love to go with the internet's theory that these books were actually written without an author, but this certain person is a bit too vocal with her super hateful and divisive views to be ignored. Moore explained the decision to airbrush her and said, for the time being, the curators decided to remove any of her artifacts from this gallery to reduce her impact. It's not a perfect solution, but it's what we're able to do in the short term while determining long term practices. Now, I'm assuming that all this stuff in this little museum is from the movies, correct?
Yeah.
Movie things. As we've stated before, I pick on Warner Brothers, but one thing they're doing lately that's actually very smart is doing a Harry Potter rebooting it in the form of a television series as opposed to a movie series.
Right.
Now, I still think this should also be on regular HBO and not just on Max. We'll see if that happens. It shouldn't just be streaming exclusive. They should have another regular cable channel. J.K. Rowling's completely on board because I want you to think about something. Not all the actors, I think the actress that played Luna Lovegood still supports Rowling, but a lot of the actors have basically turned their backs on Rowling. I think it's time for some new blood in Harry Potter, and I think it's time to basically just get new actors and new sets and everything else and start fresh with Harry Potter and reinvigorate it. And I think if they do that, these little displays from the movies are going to become old hat. This will be the millennials Harry Potter, not the new generation's version of Harry Potter, which will be in the form of the TV series. And I don't know. I just think it's kind of sick that they're doing this. This is the author of the series. She created it. She was in the display before, and you're airbrushing her out. But you still want to collect the money from the property she made by having these artifacts. Do one or the other. Remove the display entirely, or keep her in it. But don't. I think this middle ground. This is censoring. This is. I don't know. This is anti culture in my opinion. But what do you think?
Exactly. If you
Yeah.
were a museum
Yeah.
You present it.
Yeah.
You put whatever you feel the warnings or context or whatever bullshit you need to put on, but you present it. Once you start editorializing, you're not a museum anymore. You are, fanatically pushing propaganda is what you're doing.
Yeah, this is Seattle.
Yep.
They have a lot of problems going on there too. I
Yeah.
don't think
No shit.
Best Buy's
That's
not selling DVDs in Seattle now, probably because they removed all their stores there. But
yeah.
anyway,
There you go.
just I don't know. I think
That's
it's time also for us. I mean, I'll say like I said, I attack Warner Brothers. I think rebooting Harry Potter's TV series. I think it's good. I kind of want to forget those movies at this point. I kind of found the movie versions of the Harry Potter books kind of annoying. There was some good casting there and some good stuff, but really after part 3, I feel they kind of go downhill. They're not really good adaptations of the books, and I think it's time for us to. I think starting fresh with the TV series is the right way to go with Harry Potter, and frankly, it just it's a way for J.K. Rowling to maintain, to still get money off of this property. So she's on board with it. So I don't know. Were you a fan of Harry Potter at all?
I mean,
The books? Did you read the books at all? I don't know.
I haven't read the books, although
Okay,
Nanette
books are better than the
has
movies.
them. I've heard. I've watched some of the movies. Some of them I didn't get through. I basically know the whole gist
Some of the
what
movies
it's
aren't
all
good.
about.
That's why you didn't get through them.
I've been really enjoying the Super Carlin brothers do some great breakdowns
Yeah,
of different elements of the lore of
yeah,
Harry Potter. And let me tell you, it's some very interesting world building. Sometimes they make connections, and I go, "Wow, that's some pretty deep stuff for what's basically essentially a kid's story."
No, there's good stuff in there. In fact, if you a lot of libraries they'll categorize some of the earlier Harry Potter books as children's books, but when he gets older, they're in the young adult section.
True.
Um, and I'm sorry, but this whole what was I mentioning though about the yeah, no, I mean I was just saying there were some bad adaptations with some of those later books in the series into movies. I consider Half Blood Prince to be Harry Potter and Half Blood Prince to be one of the worst adaptations from a book to movie I've ever seen. They completely missed the mark with that one. Because
Yeah, and
that was a book about two characters in the Harry Potter series. The focus was Lord Voldemort and Snape. Those were the two main characters. The focus of that story was, and there were other ancillary things in there that were fun in the book, like the love potion stuff. But that was never supposed to be the focus of the book, and it wasn't. You have all these the Harry Potter books, you'll have the main story, and then you'll have these side things going on too, which are also fun. Like there's a lot of whimsy in the books that kind of got lost on screen, like a lot of that British whimsy,
right,
that you get in things that you see more in the books than you did on screen. I
right,
don't know.
exactly.
J.K. Rowling got a lot of kids reading books. She was the darling of everybody, including many on the left, until she started to feel afraid for women having to confront, and I'm sorry, some of the points she made, in my opinion, are valid with the whole, you having to like especially in the prisons.
Yep.
I mean, how many stories have we heard about someone who's identifying as a different gender getting put
It's
in the
real
female?
interesting how
Then suddenly
there's
women are
women
getting
in
pregnant
women's
in prison.
prisons ending
Yes,
up pregnant. How is that
yes, it's
happening?
ridiculous. So I don't know. Now she's a monster, though. But I don't care. Harry Potter is still popular, and like I said, I think it's time to reboot it with that series. And Universal still makes a ton of money off Harry Potter, so that would be an attractive thing for Warner Brothers to sell. See, the whole Warner Brothers thing is different than the 20th Century Fox thing. I felt the 20th Century Fox thing was almost. I know there was a hostility there. I'm not saying it was a hostile takeover because, as some people said, the Murdochs were just trying to get rid of it. But I felt the people running the studio wanted it to be independent from Disney because they had projects in the works that got basically kicked to the can once Disney took over,
Yeah.
including probably more elitist sequels. But I don't know. Okay, let's talk about. Will Universal even be able to afford to buy Warner Brothers when they're spending money like this? Let's go to Exorcist Believer, a bust.
Yeah, there we go.
I haven't seen it. Full disclosure. Apparently, Deleted Scenes has. He will be having a review coming up of it in, I guess, the next week or so. So you can see what he has to say. But here we go. Not even the devil himself could help Universal and Blumhouse this weekend with the opening of The Exorcist Believer. That's after the studio brought the franchise rights for a trilogy from Morgan Creek back in July 2021 for $400 million. Now, I believe this was from Warner Brothers, right? Didn't Warner Brothers own the rights to The Exorcist?
I don't know for sure. I know that they were pretty mixed up rights and whatnot.
Okay, so maybe this wasn't tied to Warner Brothers. I don't know. Anyway, even though this is the best opening for an Exorcist movie with 27.2 million stateside, 45.1 global, heads are low over at Universal City. However, their slide rule for determining break even and profitability in this particular film is being measured against Believer's 30 million production cost. Wow, read on. In regards to whether the Exorcist franchise buy actually worked, that would be determined down the road after another two films are accounted for by Universal. Yeah, but where do you go from here? Correct. The next Exorcist will need to be rebooted greatly after David Gordon Green's vision here did not resonate with a Halloween type of way. That first 2018 movie opening to a franchise best of 76.2 million domestic, and the filmmaker's three Michael Myers films grossing near $500 million worldwide. The last two installments, Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends, saw their ticket sales siphoned due to a theatrical day and date on Uni streaming service Peacock. Did you know that Halloween Kills was on Peacock when it came out?
No, I didn't.
If you had to subscribe to the Peacock, you just watch it home. But I promised a friend I would go with him to see the sequel, and we did. And it was one of the worst sequels I'd ever seen to a movie. Halloween Kills is awful.
Wow.
It's just. I remember you were at the time we were bringing up the point that it had the CG Donald Pleasance in it and stuff. For
Jeez.
past scenes, which actually looked good. I'll say that it did look believable because they did flashbacks, but it was a horrible sequel. It's kind of funny. I noticed echoes of, remember the later Halloween sequels like 4, 5, and 6 later on with the Michael Myers, how they got ridiculous with a lot of the I guess the stuff with the druids and something like that.
Yeah.
It felt like that they were doing the same thing with Halloween Kills, and I didn't even bother seeing Halloween Ends. I don't know if it redeemed itself. I don't really want to watch it to find out. That's how bad the second Halloween Kills was.
Wow.
I didn't have the hatred for the David Gordon Halloween other people had. I thought, it was okay. We've had other okay sequels. I actually think H2O is actually an underrated sequel. It's not as bad as people remember, I think. But okay, anyway, I'm re-interrupting. However, for Universal, Halloween was a big subscription driver, so people subscribed to Peacock just to watch Halloween at home during the pandemic, I'm sure. And why are they going theatrical day and date on Blumhouse's feature take on the popular video game Five Nights at Freddy's on October 27th? 30 million spent on this Exorcist doesn't include back ends. So this one is not going to be day and date on Peacock. This was a theatrical exclusive, but Five Nights at Freddy's, the movie, is going to be on Peacock. What do you think?
Confused. That is very confusing.
Yeah. Actually, I have access to Peacock. I guess I'll watch it when it comes on. As we previously mentioned, this $400 million purchase by Uni for Exorcist wasn't a scenario where three movies would be produced at $133 million a piece. Some rival studio executives are under the impression that's what the deal called for. The Exorcist deal was a broader franchise driver for Universal, which included production budgets, a buyout of talent and rights backends, producer fees, rights to leverage IP across a portfolio, theme parks, Halloween Horror Nights experiences, branding, and also to drive viewership on Peacock. Exorcist Believer has a 45 theatrical window before landing on Peacock. It's possible, though, that there is no definite plans on the next two Exorcist movies that they could go theatrical day and date on Peacock. Now, a lot has obviously changed in the marketplace since this Exorcist deal was made, and the economics around these types of buyouts are significantly more strained in 2023 than they were in 2021. In the heat of the deal, what execs at Universal didn't realize was that Exorcist isn't Halloween. Sequels to the late 1973 William Friedkin directed scariest movie ever in cinema never lived up to the original critically or commercially. This one at 23% with reviewers on Rotten Tomatoes. The Exorcist IP is being ripped off and copied so much that the brand is rather diluted. Strange Gems, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, and Lionsgate's The Last Exorcism. The elements of The Exorcist do not have the storied legacy as, say, Jamie Lee Curtis, Laurie Strode, and Michael Myers. Yeah, because anyone can make a movie about exorcism, right? Yeah. It's not owed to The Exorcist IP. It's funny. What's obvious.
Yeah, just take a look at how many Amityville horror movies are out there that have nothing to do with the Amityville horror.
I still have to watch that Amityville Horror in space.
Yeah,
Remember my
exactly.
joke at the time? In space, no one can hear you say, "Get out!"
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
What's obvious is that unlike Green's Halloween, this Exorcist really isn't a spiritual sequel or reboot in the sense of the movie, which of course fans could easily smell this weekend. Giving Believer a C on Cinema Score is the same as 1990's Exorcist 3 and 2004's The Exorcist the Beginning. Furthermore, Ellen Burstyn's Chris McNeil isn't exactly Curtis Strode. Kurtz is a Strode in regards to being the last girl standing. There was a lot of back and forth development in regards to what this Exorcist should be before setting on a plot on a single father, Oscar nominee Leslie Odom Jr., whose only daughter gets possessed after a disappearance in the wood. Reportedly, Odom Jr. walked off the set of Exorcist the Believer and the production stopped. However, that's less this movie's problems than its subpar setup. Universal originally had the horror theatrical release date on Friday 13th this month before AMC's Taylor Swift The Eras Tour landed on that date.
Yeah,
however, going
that
earlier,
caused him a bit of a problem.
Yeah, however, going earlier really wasn't the problem here for The Exorcist Believer. It was always in the execution. Whether Exorcist Believer profits remains a question. Stateside outlook is $75 million per some analysts. Isn't $75 million compared to a $30 million budget? Isn't that still a win?
You need to. I've heard the calculation being you need to make at least twice as much as what your reported budget is.
Okay.
Because keep in mind, when you release a film in theaters, whatever the outlets say they made on it, half of that goes to the theater. So boom.
I mean, this is still a low budget movie. I mean, compared $30 million today is not $30 million it was back in the 90s. When $30 million
but
was
do you know how much they paid to get the rights to the? They bought this
$400 million. They bought it for too much money. That's the problem. They pay too much on the rights to it.
Yep.
Not realizing that the name itself, it's really the original movie, and that's it. I've heard some people sing the praises of Exorcist 3. I've not seen it. I heard there's a different cut of it too that might be better than the original theatrical. Apparently, it's on Prime streaming. So I'm thinking, why am I watching Exorcist Believer when I could just watch Exorcist 3? I never watched that. It's funny. They did an interview with William Friedkin. I don't know if I sent it to you or not. Where he about the Exorcist 2 and the producers going, and then like they relate to Thier and they say they go in front. They're the ones that made this piece of crap, and they had to run out and the limos pulled away, and like there was an angry crowd in the theater wanting to get them for how bad the Exorcist 2 was.
That's funny.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, am I more interested in Exorcist Believer, or I'm more interested in that Late Night with the Devil movie, which sounds more intriguing? I'm just... And where is that movie? I was talking about it on Deleted Scenes channel tonight. Where is it? I want to watch it already. I don't know. I mean, anybody can make an exorcism movie. They had The Pope's Exorcist with Russell Crowe earlier this year, didn't they?
Yeah.
Where I hear he does an Italian accent.
Oh, God.
That's not completely convincing.
I would imagine not.
Stop doing this. I want to give points. I think I've said this about HBO's Chernobyl when that series premiered, how they're not having everyone do Russian accents. They just cast the actors and just speak with whatever accent you have. We know you're playing Russians. So you have like Stellan Skarsgård and that one actor from England, Richard Harris's son. And, they were in it and it worked,
Yeah.
I'd rather hear that than bad Italian accents for 2 hours or bad Russian accents for 2 hours. Like
the only way I want to hear a bad Italian accent is if it's on Mario, for crying out loud. Then I would be cheering.
They got rid of Charles Martinet. They should have had him stick around a little longer. I mean, they're still employing him, so it's not like Nintendo got rid of him completely. He's still getting a paycheck.
True. Should we wrap it up? Let's
just wrap it up. I'm in a mood tonight.
This one is going to be a quick one. It's kind of funny when you think about it. So a Miami school receives complaints after pupils are shown Winnie the Pooh blood and honey.
This is the
hilarious. Perfect example of, I think I downloaded the wrong Winnie the Pooh.
Miami school receives complaints after pupils shown Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Yes, a school in Miami, Florida, of course it's Florida, is facing complaints from parents after their 9 and 10-year-old children were shown a Winnie the Pooh horror film by a teacher. Approximately 20 to 30 minutes of Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey was shown to pupils at the Academy of Innovative Education by a maths teacher. A math teacher? Okay.
Yeah.
The film is described by IMDb as horror that involves the character of Pooh and Piglet seeking revenge after Christopher Robin leaves to go to university. It reportedly obtained a NR rating in the US, meaning it's not rated, but is marked as an 18 by the British Board of Film Classifications. Why wasn't this movie rated? Did it not get a theatrical release over here?
Well, they don't have to submit it for rating. That's an
But then no theater
thing.
will show up, but they were probably not expecting that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Or at least no, you'll have an indie theater showing, but not like a chain.
Right.
Okay. One mother whose twins were in the class said she felt completely abandoned by the school after the teacher failed.
Well, I think most parents are feeling abandoned by the school these days, not just for this reason.
He didn't stop the movie, even though there were kids saying, "Hey, stop the movie! We don't want this."
Oh my God! Can you imagine? Oh my God! We don't want this. Please stop! Please, I don't want to watch this.
I'd be in that class saying, "Y'all, the snowflake generation stops here." That's what I would say. I'm sorry. Oh. I'm imagining like 5-year-olds watching Pooh Bear like gut somebody with a knife or something.
Why is he doing that?
Yeah. Miss Diaz said it was the pupils who reportedly chose to watch the film, but said it was down to the teacher to look at the content. How on earth did this happen? Was this streaming somewhere? Did he go to a streaming service and the kids said, "Oh, I like that Winnie the Pooh movie with Ewan McGregor"?
I guarantee you this is an example of downloading Winnie the Pooh, and it was the most recent one that comes up on the feed
Probably.
When you search for Winnie the Pooh, and he got Blood and Honey.
There's a thing called Wikipedia. You can like type in a movie title and find out what's the do.
No, that's too much effort. Look, if
I'm
a math teacher,
I'm not an English teacher.
If a math teacher is showing a movie that doesn't have to do with math in his class, he obviously doesn't care. He's looking to babysit the kids with a movie. That's what this is.
This is like Ghostbusters Afterlife at summer school and Paul Rudd. He was there to study the earthquake, so he's just showing the kids like Child's Play and Cujo. Remember that?
Yes, exactly right.
Like in real life, though. That's what this is going on.
That's exactly a perfect analogy. Yes.
Yeah, Mrs. Diaz says it was the pupils reportedly chose to watch look at the content. The head teacher of the school, Vera Hirsch, told CBS News the issue was addressed directly with the teacher and appropriate action has been taken to ensure the safety and well-being of students. We are actively monitoring the students, and our mental health counselor and principal have already met with those students who have expressed concerns.
Okay, talk about overcorrecting. Okay, they screwed up. They got to deal with the consequences. Leave the kids alone. Let the parents sort it out. You've done enough damage already.
The Academy of Innovative Education opened in 2011, according to the website, teaches children from when they first start school, age 5 to 6, up until they are 17. See, that's. I'm gonna say though, that's. You got to switch schools, kids. You know, you gotta start over with have to make new friends, and you know, be the outsider. You know, you're just being coddled being there at age 17.
Jeez.
And they get out into the real world. I'm sorry, though. I'm thinking, okay, we'll not do Blood and Honey. Let's do Goodbye, Christopher Robin. Which, granted, it's not as...
Yeah, I mean, at least there's some cultural relevance there.
I was thinking maybe they thought it was that Ewan McGregor Pooh movie, which I think was like the last decent Disney movie I saw with Haley Atwell. It's basically about an adult Christopher Robin.
Right.
And he goes back. And it's funny... They're the stuffed animals, like it's in real life action, so they're stuffed animals, but they have all the voice mannerisms of the Pooh characters from the cartoon, you know?
Yeah.
And it was interesting. It was actually a pretty good Disney movie. I'll say that. It was a good Disney movie. Yeah. Lester San Jose, the Skeptic Tank. Welcome.
Yep. Yep. Wow.
Buy two get one free at 4K Blu-rays. Where is this? Let me know. Uh, I did do a Scream Factory's having a sale on their site of many of their Blu-rays. Shout Factory, because it's their, I think, their annual Shocktober sale. I think that's what they call it. And I got some horror movies on Blu-ray, and I got what the heck did I buy? I got the Frank Langella Dracula movie. Remember that one?
Oh
In
yeah.
the late 70s, because this one has the actual color, correct theatrical color version before all the color got saturated out for home video and people got angry. It has both versions, so, and it was on sale. I got that. I got an Australian horror movie called Razorback.
Yes, I can't remember if I saw it or not, but I know
I
of it.
caught it once on Monster Vision, like TNT Monster Vision back in the 90s. It was like an 80s Australian horror
It's
movie.
about a
And
feral pig, isn't it?
yeah, basically Joe Bob Briggs said, hey, I love this movie because, the worship of the pig is like the state religion back in Arkansas where I'm originally from. But he said that he already knew what happened when he went to the Hollywood. It had to be made in Australia because he said you went to a Hollywood executive and says it's like Jaws, but there's a pig in it. That's not gonna fly.
It's like Jaws, but a pig.
It's a great little horror monster movie with this horrible giant razorback pig. Razorbacks can be terrifying.
They are. They are.
Pigs.
They are. Yeah,
Terrifying.
people
They
get
can be,
killed
yeah.
by feral pigs every
Uh,
year.
Portland going there.
Portland Retro Gaming Expo.
That's where you got
Okay.
the buy two get two free.
Good.
Well, anyway,
Well,
and
I expect to see a video about that then.
I got a third one, which is another Australian movie. I forget what the title was.
Island
Something
in the
with an I
Stars.
title. No, this one has Jamie
That's
Lee
an
Curtis.
Australian movie we should all care about.
Well, yes, and be sure to keep supporting it as I did,
Absolutely.
as Troy has. And,
Absolutely. My understanding is that even though they've already met their primary goal and the initial campaign is over, you can still contribute. You can still be a part of Island in the Stars.
Hey, maybe Australia can become the new Hollywood. You never know.
I mean,
and then
in
we'll
the
have to
short
start
term, that
affecting
would be a
the
good
kids.
thing, but in the long term, it might be a bad thing for Australia because it could
Perhaps.
end up like California.
Yeah. But one of my favorite bands is actually from Australia, Howling Bells.
Oh, okay.
Of course, the
I
lead
thought you
singer
were
in
going to
that
say
is
Dire Straits, but okay.
Okay. Jamie Lee Curtis. What the heck was the movie where she was in Australia? Give me a second. I'm going to find the title of it. Maybe someone in the chat knows. It's like like she hitchhikes with a truck driver in Australia, and who's played by Stacy Keach. Let me see. Stacy Keach. He's a good actor, don't you think?
The only movie I really remember Stacy Keach from was Butterfly.
It's called Road Games. Okay. And
Right.
it's an
Thank you,
Australian
deleted
thriller
scenes.
film. Oh, what? Did he say Road Games?
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
well, good for you.
he's Johnny on the spot. It's just that he's
Well,
30
I found it
seconds
after
behind.
searching.
So because
Yeah, I
because
ordered
of the
I ordered
lag.
Road Games. I ordered Road Games. Ordered
Road Games, Road Warriors, and we need one more Australian road movie.
No, I picked the third one was Frank Langella's Dracula. So I get the free shipping. So, oh well.
There you go.
John Williams score for Frank Langella's Dracula, and I like I said, I felt bad for Frank Langella because he got, I believe his career got canceled over nothing, and
Yep.
I'm not too pleased about that. I have a suspicion who the actress was, but I don't know for certain, so I won't mention her name. I think I shared it with you though.
Yeah, and I watched
It's
that
a
video. I'm
suspicion
like,
I
who
have.
is this dinglehopper?
It's a suspicion I have now. I don't want to say for certain who it is because, for all I know, the original actress left after this and they hired somebody else. So I don't know that no one said this is specifically the woman that filed the complaint. So eventually this will all come out in the wash. We'll know about it years from now.
Right.
Nothing stays hidden forever. So I don't want to go accusing someone if it's not them, but I'm 90% certain it was this woman. So who frankly has a Sandra Bernhardt quality, if you ask me.
She looks like her, doesn't
Yes.
she? Gosh.
Yes. So I'm not getting it, and I've not heard of her before either. But
I mean, if some older dude was me tooing her, that's probably the only action she was going to be getting. So she shouldn't complain. Cancel Troy Pacelli. Hashtag.
Yes. Actually, Carla Gugino, what's it? Carla Gugino, is that her name? How you say her name? Is on that show. She's an older lady, but she's nice looking. But anyway, that's not who played his wife.
Where are we going to be in about 45 minutes?
We're going to be on Deleted Scenes channel for the Other Side of Midnight.
Other Side of Midnight, number 23.
Special guest, Sin's Corner. Ooh,
Sin's Corner. I like that name, Sin's Corner. You know, I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. Might be the kind of name that I think would be good for a fan site. You know, just saying.
Sin's Corner.
But
you need a competitor for OnlyFans, maybe.
Exactly.
I don't know.
So that's 45 minutes.
Yeah, stay tuned.
You know, so we're gonna be wrapping up here in a second. You can go get yourself some refreshments. You know, drain the main vein, and then get back so that you can close out your weekend with Deleted Scenes. But I'm unaware of anything going on over the next 3 days. Do you know anything?
Nothing till Thursday. That'll be Netter's
Network.
Early Thursday things. Yes.
Yeah, and that's it's no real special guest, just her and me, and we're gonna be doing a little trivia contest, kind of celebrating 275 subscribers on her channel.
Oh, okay.
And those of you that have
prizes?
There will be prizes,
Oh.
and we will be having some trivia questions about, well, if you've been a good stalker of Netter and myself, you should do pretty well on the trivia contest.
Will it be a Stretch Armstrong that you stretched out too much when you were younger and the jelly fell out of it? Is that what you're getting out as a prize?
If I had that, it probably would have had to gotten thrown away, because if I was going to destroy something, I was going to destroy it big old time. There's actually YouTube channels that destroy Stretch Armstrongs, like putting them in the microwave and stretching them until they burst, filling them up with air until they explode. Just, man, it's like that redheaded kid next door in Toy Story, you know? It's like, ah.
I have an idea. Let's just restart the stream. We'll do good old days, Stretch Armstrong, and then we'll just go through the same stories again. How's that sound?
We could absolutely do that. We could
a piece of gum and a nickel. Okay. Piece of gum and a nickel.
Yeah.
You know what? You know what's good gum if you can find it? Bazooka Joe, but grape flavored.
Oh my gosh. I haven't seen that since, the early 80s.
I haven't seen it in a long time.
My dad was a barber. He used to have Bazooka Joe. And one time he got grape instead of the regular. And that's the only reason I know about it.
It's the best stuff. I remember I used to buy boxes of Bazooka Joe. And these come with comic books, remember? Comic strips on them. And yeah. Okay.
Little comic strip wrapped around it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I used to love it. And if you save those comic strips, you could send it in for, crap.
I think that's what I did, like a whoopee cushion or something like that.
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah. So
Friday.
Friday, my channel. That'll be 9 Central, 10 Eastern. As I mentioned earlier, special guest will be our usual maitre d'. He's going to be our guest bartender as we revisit the pilot episode of Twin Peaks. Steven, I got to look back at my DVD. Now I can't remember if the pilot episode was a full 2 hours, or if it was a two-parter. So we're going to have to look at that. But either way, we're probably going to do the whole
talk, and I might be able to find out, because I own all of Twin Peaks digitally on Vudu, and this is where you say boo.
Oh yeah. Well, and I
bought my sister the physical edition, though. Yeah.
We previously did a watch party a year, maybe 2 years ago, where we looked at about 100 minutes or so. Okay, so it was it was a movie length kind of thing. We had done a rewatch of the European cut of it, which was kind of put out in the form of a movie with a tacked on ending, and that tacked on ending ended up being spliced up in the American series in later episodes. But so the actual pilot is a little bit shorter. We're going to look at it that way because we want to look at it in the context.
34 minutes. It's an hour and 34 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. I own the HDX version on my Vudu. I'll explain to you why I own a digital copy of Twin Peaks instead of the physical on the stream this Friday.
Okay. I actually own multiple
There have
copies.
been many editions of Twin Peaks.
I have it on VHS, I have it on DVD, I have it on Blu-ray. So I have this is the one thing where I'm going to get every single version of the physical media that's out there.
You know
So
what?
I've
If
got
I
all the
come to
versions.
think of it, it's possible I still have my physical DVD set of the original series. I don't think I got rid of it unless it got destroyed in the flood. But
Yeah.
I remember wanting. I don't think I got rid of it. I think I just got this for convenience sake. Okay. I think the original series I still have physical of on DVD. Okay, never mind.
Yep,
All
yep.
right. But
So
yeah, yeah.
we're looking at 94 minutes. So we have time to really get into the show, do a deep dive, talk about it, and then in the following weeks we'll be doing one a week over on Deleted Scenes channel, doing a deep dive on each episode. So 1 hour episode, and give us a half hour to an hour to talk about it. And yeah, so that'll be Friday on my channel. And then that brings us to Saturday, and that's the 21st, I believe. Over to Big Al Presents Films with Friends, where we're keeping the Halloween thing going as we talk about and we watch together the film Captain Kronos Vampire Hunter from Hammer
Oh.
Studios. Obliquely sort of related to the Karnstein trilogy.
Karnstein, yes.
Karnstein, sorry.
Technically
Yeah.
a fourth movie, if you want to be technical
Sort
about it.
of,
Yeah.
sort of, yeah. One of the characters bleeds over. See what I did there? Into Captain Kronos.
I consider it part of that series. Other people may argue it isn't, but I consider it part of those other three movies, yes.
It's part of the Hammer vampire universe. How about we say it that way?
Well, we'll talk more about Hammer in a couple of weeks. I'll
Yes,
have
we
something
will.
to say. Hammer wasn't really about universes, which is what makes them different from Universal. So
True.
we'll get into that in a couple
True,
of weeks.
true.
Yeah.
And
All
there
right.
we go.
Cool. And
That's all I got.
Next week we'll be on Geeky Geezers. It's just late speaking. I didn't even realize this happened. Apparently, speaking of Hammer's old rival Amicus Productions is apparently up and running again, and they're going to make an anthology horror movie. So I'll be talking about that next week. I didn't realize this was happening. So some good news for a change, maybe next week instead of me ranting. You know what? Let's have the Brits get involved in making movies again. I used to love British movies. We need more of them, and we're hungry.
Boobs.
We're hungry. Yeah, boobs are nice. Yeah, it's funny. You wouldn't get so much of the gore, but you got the boobs.
Yep. Yeah, the gore was actually almost laughable, right? When you'd see blood, it looked like tempera paint. And it would be like, that does not look like blood.
To be fair, though, that was because it was Technicolor. And this was actually, to be fair, for their time, they were actually rather gory. It's just that they didn't keep up with what was happening in the
That's true. That's true.
They did other things, though, which were nice. Anyway, so
we'll definitely be talking about that in a week from Friday.
Yeah, a week from Friday. All right. So y'all have a good week. Be sure to check out Deleted Scenes channel. And anything left to say, Troy?
No. Just make sure that you're subscribed to all the people that we're talking about here. Me and Boomer and Deleted Scenes and Lester San Jose and everybody who's putting out content, because honestly, there's a lot of work, and it's encouraging when you guys come around and hang out with us.
It's very encouraging.
So next stream right here, dropping the link one more time. Come hang out with us in about 40 minutes. 35 minutes.
Sounds good. Y'all have a good evening, and we'll catch you next time.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, I got to hit the end stream, don't I?